Hey everybody, John Gums with Dakota Grappler going live tonight, Wednesday, December 2nd. Hoping to talk wrestling, lots of wrestling tonight for the next hour and a half we seem to go. I try to keep this down to an hour, but for some reason we keep talking and talking. Last week I want to thank Randy Lewis again for coming on. We had such a great show. Might have a surprise. Maybe Jim might hop on later. Makovsky's got lots of stuff he's been dealing with, so he's on one of these crazy schedules. But we do have two head coaches on tonight. We have Brendon Flynn from Devils Lake, and we've got Nate Humann from Bismarck Century, two Class A coaches. And we're going to have fun tonight. We'll talk a little bit about their careers, a little bit of mindset, wrestling mindset and what they're doing, how we battle this COVID stuff again and again. We're going to talk about it, probably till our teeth fall out, basically. Hopefully it goes away sooner than that. But other than that, my name is John Gums. I'm owner and editor of Dakota Grappler. Off to my right, we have Brendon Flynn. They've got their names by him. But if you hear this later, we do have this gets transferred into a podcast. So if you want, you can go over to Dakota Grappler, click on the podcast links, and you can go over, and there's several shows that I've transferred over to podcasts. So you can listen to this while you're working, put your headphones in or something too if you can't watch this all tonight. Also, if you want to see some other ones, you can go over to YouTube. You can subscribe if you like, get our notifications. But we do have several shows there too going back. And just to tell everybody who are here already, feel free to make comments. Tonight I am giving out some free Dakota Grapplers. I'll be sending some out to people. Just put a little post on there. Yep, there's the Dakota Grappler. There's Jax in the background. But giving some books away tonight to some comments. I'll probably give away 3 to 5 books, and I'll send them out, or I'll meet them somewhere to give them to them. I have no problem doing that. South Dakota does have wrestling this weekend. We'll talk about that later. And we'll talk a little bit of international and college wrestling. I know Bill's always up on that. We did have some stuff between the show last time. And actually, we didn't get to talk to about it last time either. So Bill's probably full there. Okay, Brendon, you're going to be first off. I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you're from, how you got started in wrestling, and just you have the microphone for a couple minutes. I'll let you start, Brendon.
So hi, I'm Brendon Flynn. I'm the head coach at Devils Lake. So basically how I got started in the wrestling, kind of grew up in it. My dad was a coach. A lot of you might remember Dennis Flynn, but he was a coach for a long time. But he got me started. Like I was that little kid in the wrestling room, like following my dad. I grew up in gyms, like I was 2 months old. Like it's kind of cool to say I've been 35 years old and I've been to 36 state tournaments. So just because I was, like I said, I was 2 months old going to my first one. I was a little kid, like at the tournaments, like, when you, like your parents, like they always tell you not to put your name on your kids. Like that was the only way my parents found me, just like running around the little tournaments, like trying to get all the kids in the back. But, so I was just kind of born into it. I always loved it. Like it was never a thing like my dad ever forced me to. I just always really loved wrestling, got into it. Grew up with it, and I grew up in Devils Lake. I was actually born in Minot. I could have been a magician. But anyways, but then we ended up in, so we born in Minot, lived in Center, North Dakota. So not many people remember Center, but kind of a cool story is with the Lennox boys. I grew up with the Lennox boys. If you remember,
sure. Very
Kurt Lennox and that. So, but anyways, ended up at Devils Lake, and ironically, I left Devils Lake, went to college, did all that stuff, and then ironically, I ended up back in Devils Lake, where I started. So it's kind of cool, like kind of full circle for me. So
refresh my memory a little bit. 2003 graduate?
2004. So graduated in 2004. Was fortunate enough to be a two-timer out of Devils Lake. I was kind of one of those weird kids. Like I always knew what I wanted to do when I was a little kid. Like I had it all planned out. Like I was going to be a 4-timer, and I was going to go this, and I was going to go do that. And like after my freshman year, when I didn't win, it was okay, I'm going to be a 3-timer. And then after my sophomore year, I didn't win. It was okay, I'm going to be a 2-timer. Like there's no way I'm not going to be a 2-timer. So I was just kind of like, I was always kind of that kid. Like I said, I grew up in like, I was kind of drug up the hard way. Like my dad, it was really funny because my dad was like, just don't leave any bruises on him. That's all I remember my dad saying to all his wrestlers. Like, don't leave any bruises on him that I can't explain to his mother.
Yeah.
Like I remember getting like taped to a chair and like shoved in a locker, like when they would, like all the wrestlers would like go out and wrestle a duel, and then they'd finally come back and like untape me or let me out. So like, I never had a brother. I never had an older brother or younger brother, but like all my dad's wrestlers were always my brothers, you could say. But yeah, I ended up graduating in 2004, and then after high school, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to wrestle at the U of M at Minnesota for Jay Robinson. For different reasons, like personal reasons, ended up not being the best fit for me. And then I ended up transferring to Iowa Central and wrestling for Luke Moffitt there. And that was going really good. And then kind of unfortunate, one of those things where I had a flat tire. If anyone knows what a flat tire is with your knee, I completely blew out my knee. And so kind of after that, that's when I decided just to like focus on like finishing school and like making sure like kind of just started. That's when I kind of really like geared and redirected myself towards coaching, and kind of been coaching ever since.
Okay. So how many years have you been the head coach in Devils Lake now?
Oh my gosh, this is my fourth year. Started my fourth year. So time flies. Super excited. Super excited because like just the kids I have with me right now. Like last year we did some great things that we've never done before, like making state duels and like placing high, like finishing in the top 10 in the Rotary and just different things. And these kids just really bought into like what I brought to the table. As I'm like, I don't know if you guys ever heard like brand speak, like if you're not here to work, like there's a door, like go, like revolving, and the kids that wrestled me, kids that graduated for me, like day one, I walked into the wrestling room and I said, there's the door, it's revolving. If you don't want to work, bye. And like that was day one of them meeting me as a head coach ever. That was day one when I walked in. Not like, hey, nice to meet you. Like, I'm glad you're all here. Like, it was like, if you don't like what I'm doing, you're not gonna work hard. There's the door.
Yep.
You know,
expectations. They need to have
like, that was the expectation, like right from the start, and it hasn't changed. And that's why I'm so excited, like for this group this year, because the group that's with me now, so this would be their fourth with me. Like anyone that's I say survived, just because I'm kind of like I don't care if you're a seventh grader, I don't care if you're a 12th grader. You know, so I make like all the seventh grade and eighth graders practice with the varsity because I want to find out sooner than later. That's just my mentality. And I got that a long time ago from Jay Robinson. If anyone's ever been to his 28-day camp, I got that a long time ago from his mentality. He just doesn't care. Like his mentality is like, you're either tough or you're not, you know? And like, I want to find out sooner and later if you're going to make it. Like, and that's just kind of how I am. Like with when I had like seventh graders coming in, like it's really kind of funny is because we have our Shooting Stars program, you know, and those kids talk to each other and they're like, it's not Shooting Stars, man. like some of the kids when they talk to each other, they're like, it's not like Shooting Stars. And it's like, but you know, that's the reality of wrestling. Wrestling's not easy, you know, and wrestling's not, I mean, if you want to be the best, like you got to really work hard. You know, and it just sets them up for life. Because if I can teach them how to wrestle, like that's great. Like, because my whole thing is like I want to make them successful as a person. So when they leave me, like right now I have a kid. I don't know if anyone remembers Shams Cemento, but last year he graduated for me, and now he's off like doing like great things in the military. You know, and like doing things like that, and like. He's like trying out for different things, and some of these other kids, you know, like that's my goal is to like get these kids to like when they leave, like I know they can be successful. Like my heavyweight last year, Jack Kuntz, like he's, you know, like and a couple other guys, like ended up getting scholarships, not for wrestling, you know, but they ended up getting scholarships for other sports, you know, just to go get that opportunity. And like I attribute that a lot to wrestling, just because. You know, like it's that mental toughness. It's that mental edge. There's a reason why Navy SEALs come and recruit us. You know, there's a reason why Dana White from the UFC is coming to all the colleges and saying like, hey, like you should try out, like you should try this out, you know? but that's just kind of my approach. And like a big thing I always talk about, and I know that like my thing is like do something great. Like that's kind of what I've come up with in the last like year. Is that's kind of like my philosophy, my motto, or whatever you want to call it. But that's just kind of like, that's just what we're expected to do. Like when you walk into that wrestling room, like you're expected to do something great, you know, like, cause we're from North Dakota. Let's face it. We're from North Dakota. Like we're small town USA, man. Like we don't even have 1 million people in our state. Like, let's face it. Like people still don't even think we have internet, and you know, and we're on Facebook Live right now. You know, like people still like, for real, people still think they'll message you. The funny thing is they'll message you on like social media and like, you guys have internet?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. You know, like, I mean,
oh yeah.
You know, so it's, you know, for like
I've seen the step up of your team, and now sometimes wrestling is a numbers game. You're in a Class A school that's one of the smallest in the state. And so you have to compete against, you know, some of the top wrestlers in the state. So there's no just how could you say stepping around it. You have to step straight up face to face with the best. And I tell you what, you've done a great job. I look back to the probationary time when Devils Lake was actually thinking of dropping the wrestling team, right? Previous to you getting there, and the numbers. It takes a family to do it too. You need the club. You need the parents. You need, like I said before with your cheerleaders, you need the wrestling moms. That's as big as anything, and that's one of the big. I haven't mentioned it lately, but women's wrestling is going to explode men's wrestling too, because those are going to be wrestling moms. Their little boys, they're going to be taking them to practice. I'll guarantee you, and their little girls. So,
yeah, that's a new way to look at it too. That I never considered that. That's a very good point.
Oh yeah, I tell you what, without my mom, I probably wouldn't have survived, because I wrestled her as a kid quite a bit. Because I tell you what, she was tough. She you know how, I don't know if anybody's ever leg wrestled before. Just like I could never beat my mom. Even I was probably 30 and she still could flip me over. Yeah, definitely. Well, on the bottom, I'll talk more about you with you, Brendon, in a second. But Nate, thanks for coming back on again. Nate, I tell you what, is another one of those college gurus. He's a wrestler through and through. I know he's been busy with his new dog and hunting quite a bit this fall. Yeah, he's actually trying to grow a little fuzzy mustache there, I see. And and give you a hard time. But Nate has been a great influence to the Century Wrestling team. He brought new fire in there, and he's a motivator. He is a technician, and I just enjoy watching you on the mat, Nate. And so, Nate, I'm going to ask you probably some new questions tonight a little bit.
Okay.
Now, I know as a little kid, what other sports did you attempt before you wrestled?
I played basketball when I was a little kid. My dad was a basketball player, but I figured out pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be very tall. My dad is from Hazleton, North Dakota, and Hazleton never had a wrestling team till after he graduated high school. I don't know.
Hazleton had a wrestling team. Here's what's interesting. I kind of know the history of Hazleton until 1983.
Yep.
And then before they actually kind of filled in, and then they actually were thinking, who could they co-op with? So they actually went for about a 10-year span where they had no wrestling. And then they finally, they had some Weigels who actually were state champions for Napoleon, who actually lived in Hazleton, but it was no official co-op. They just drove there. And then a second brother, or a Bumgardner, actually Bumgardner was the name. And Bumgardner was a state champion of Napoleon. His brother went to Linton. So there was always a battle with that and who was going where. And so then Linton picked them up as official co-op. Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, my dad was before. Okay, my dad's in my ear right now saying Toby Better was their first state champion in 1984 from Hazleton. And then the Mock Boys were wrestling for Linton the last few years. I mean, there's been a lot of good wrestlers that went to school in Hazleton. But anyways, my dad never wrestled, so he didn't influence me to wrestle. I actually started wrestling. I was the first year in Bismarck. They started a 3rd and 4th grade youth football league. That was a long time ago. Couldn't even tell you the year now, but I was like 10 years old, and I was getting run over by my friends on the football field. And I had some dads come up to me and say, "You should give wrestling a shot." And I don't know, I was a fairly decent athlete, so I joined wrestling and I picked it up pretty quick. I joined Gorillas and went from being in the inexperienced group. They moved me up with the more experienced wrestlers the first day of practice, and ever since then I've really liked the competitiveness of wrestling. I played a lot of baseball. I played a lot of traveling baseball, and I played traveling baseball when I was 10, 11, and 12. Always tried to make the teams in Babe Ruth, but never seemed to work out. Maybe it's because of my stature. It wasn't big enough to play baseball in Bismarck. It tends to be a political thing. Shots fired at all the baseball coaches in Bismarck. But so that didn't turn out. Baseball was my first love. That was my favorite sport, but it didn't end up working out. And now hindsight's, it is what it is. But I wish I would have done a lot more wrestling in the summer, because I think it would have set me up for a lot better for college wrestling, obviously. But yeah, I played basketball, played football up until my freshman year of high school. I decided to focus on wrestling, and then I played baseball most of my way through high school. I wasn't able to play baseball my senior year of high school because I blew out my knee during the wrestling season. Finished the tournament or whatever, but wasn't able to play baseball. So I was the statistician that year. But yeah, yeah, those are the sports I played. Yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Bill? Bill's on the bottom, my right-hand man. How many sports did you play as a kid?
I played them all, I guess. I grew up in the valley, so I wrestled. I played basketball. I played hockey. Played football. Darn sport of hockey. Was on a state championship football team for Fargo South, I guess. And track, baseball. Yeah, we did them all. So, not that good at any of them, but we had a lot of fun. So learned a lot.
What I found is, guess what? So my best friends came from sports. About the competitiveness, the battling. If I played football, baseball, it didn't matter. Guess what? The camaraderie lives forever. And wrestling's such a tight sport because you bleed, you die with each other on the mat. You really do. And so when it's all said and done, you got great stories.
I found that a lot of my friends, I got a lot of my friends that had never wrestled before to join wrestling in junior high and high school. One of my best friends, would probably be the best man at my wedding, came out as a 7th grader and ended up making varsity by the time we're done. So stuff like that's fun too. Like they see how fun wrestling can be and they join up too. John, what sports did you play? I've never really heard you talk about that.
Well, here's what's interesting. When I grew up, there was not a sport you couldn't get me in or out of. I mean, if there was a bike-a-thon, I could outbike you. If there was, I was going to do anything. If somebody had a sales competition, if they were singing. In fact, our school was very competitive in band. And I can't play an instrument. I was talked in. Now this might be a little embarrassing, but I played the oboe for 2 years so I could sit with the girls. but I did that, and then I found that I loved to sing. I was in swing choir, all that things. I played football. In fact, I was a quarterback and a linebacker. When I moved to Bismarck, that's one of my regrets. Actually, I quit football just to concentrate in wrestling.
Did you play baseball? You played a lot of baseball too, right?
I played, yes, I was several. I played lots of baseball. In fact, that was my true love growing up. When summer wrestling came about, I didn't summer wrestle because I played baseball. I should have, for just the wrestling, as I love that sport so much. What's interesting is wrestling I grew up with, and it was second nature because my dad was a wrestling coach. But baseball, my dad, didn't know anything. But guess what? That was my skill. I still play softball today. I haven't been officially elected, but I was nominated this year, and we'll be voting this January to make it the Softball Hall of Fame. So if anybody's out there listening, vote for me. But I've been on, I think, 25 state championship teams in softball.
What?
I'm in the top class. Old pro, been a couple time All-American, first team All-American.
Are you in the Wood Bat League now?
I am now over 50. Yeah, couple years played in the Wood Bat League. So for the since 1996, I've been in a state final, a McQuaid's final, both, and one or the other every year.
Wow, that's cool. So
in the summer, that's a little bragging on my side. My son says, "Why are you bragging?"
Hey, why not, man? I get some guys in Devils Lake that that's all it's about is McQuaid tournament. You should hear them. It's like.
Well, I tell you what, and I made some of my best friends. What's interesting is I was not a good golfer, but all my friends golf. So guess what? I have to be the best golfer possible, and I've golfed now for about the last 5 years, and I really didn't do much besides maybe go out once a year because I was so busy in the summer. And now I'm actually not a bad golfer. I know Bill's golf with me. And so that's my little bragging side. I just love all sports. When I was a 7th grader, I couldn't make the varsity team. as a 7th grader, the full year. So I had a friend that was playing basketball. So he asked me to play basketball. So what I did is I actually was in both wrestling and basketball as a 7th grader and would travel. And that's when I learned that, guess what? No blood, no foul was my rule. and I honestly enjoyed it. And I was the high Napoleon. Now, Napoleon's never had a great basketball team. Very few, at least. Now, there's probably some Napoleon people listening. They've had a couple. You know, the Piazzas and a few other ones that didn't wrestle. They actually played basketball. But, you know, I did that, and I was many times the highest scorer. My dad goes, "No, you're not on the basketball court. You're going to sprain an ankle." So I was done once the end of the wrestling season came about. But that was – I love all sports. I was in cross country. My sister was a state placer, state champion runner, so my dad made me run cross country with her. In the spring, I basically ran everything in track. I pole vaulted. 110 hurdles, 300 hurdles. I did everything because we didn't have baseball in the spring in high school either, so I was in track.
Right.
Science fair, anything involved with school. I did everything. I went to International Science Fair. I teach chemistry and physics because of it. That's me. I tell you what, but thanks you for asking, Nate. Let's talk wrestling a little more because I can talk about anything. I just love it. But Nate, I want to ask one more question of you. I was thinking about it for a while. Now, as a coach, and you guys have a large coaching staff, when do you guys actually start working on like practice plans and everything else? How do you guys figure out what you're doing, or is it a small meeting and then? Because right now, kind of want to see a direction, which way you guys are going.
We usually just shoot something back and forth throughout the day, and then it kind of builds on itself. We kind of try to, these first couple of weeks, you build on some fundamentals and some things you want kids to get really good at. We have everyday drills, and then we have some drills we do from neutral, or we drill a new technique from the neutral position, the bottom position, and the top position. And so we're just learning our everyday drills that are going to be our foundation, and then we kind of learn new skills from there. But as far as how we develop it goes, I usually just shoot something over to Lamar, or he shoots something over to me, and then we bounce back and forth ideas off each other, and then we share it amongst the other coaches, and ask if there's anything that they think needs to be added in or taken out, So it's kind of how we put it together. Seems to work.
Yeah, definitely. Because I tell you what, right now, I know the beginning of the year is usually the toughest for most coaches, just because you don't want to really get ahead of yourself. You got to get them in shape. And then you had 1 week, you had 2 weeks off, and now you're starting kind of up again. You have
the newbies that join in, and got to catch them up to speed, Yeah.
So there's a balancing game to go on. How do you, Brendon? How do you work out your practice plans?
Honestly, 5 minutes before I get there.
But you probably work in a system though.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like here's like the thing is like I just trust in my abilities, like I have an idea of what I want to do, and like because sometimes it's like it's like a fighter, man. Like you have a plan until you get punched, So like during the practice, like during the week, okay, I really like to start like. How I always start is I focus on like your feet. Like my first week, we don't do anything on the mat. It's all on the feet because the reality is the first son of victory is on your feet. So that's my mentality. Like if you can't take someone down or you can't play defense, you're done. Like you're not going to win a match anyways. And being aggressive, like number one, Dan Gable proved that being aggressive and being able to take someone down like on your feet is the way to go. So like that's kind of my mentality is like we got to be really good on our feet. If we can't be good on our feet, then we're going to lose every match. Mm-hmm. And my other philosophy is like I'm kind of top or neutral, man. I hate bottom. Bottom is, in my opinion, is a waste of time. Like because the reality is most high school kids are terrible at bottom. Like you can show them all the technique in the world, but the reality is most high school kids are terrible at bottom. I have yet to like. There's a handful of kids that are unreal at getting out. Like I'll say Reese Barnhart, for example. And the reason I'm saying Reese Barnhart is because that is the only kid Brant Fisk could not ride, and Brant Fisk is a leech. Mm-hmm. He's just like So like there's only a handful of kids, and like the reality is, so that's why I'm big on top and I'm big on neutral. Like I'm really big from the neutral position and really big because if you can break someone, Like if you can break someone in a match by taking them down, letting them up, breaking them, like take them down, let them up, like you don't need to be great at anything else because they're going to be done. They're ready to quit.
It's one of the favorite things to watch too.
Yeah. So
as a fan.
because my first year, because I just look at my first year and and my dad was a great mentor for me, and Jay Robinson and Luke Moffett were great mentors for me. Like, because as I was there, like wrestling and learning, like I was also picking their brain, like I was not just a wrestler. Like I was that kid that was picking that coach's brain because I knew I wanted to be a coach someday. And Jay was really good at recording stuff and going back and checking. So like, I know my first year I spent so much time on bottom thinking that would help. Right. And what I've found is the less time I've spent on bottom, my kids have actually gotten better. Like, because we've gotten so good at top, because my focus has been on top, so my focus has been being hammers on top. So the reality, like, so the kids, so because my kids have gotten so good at being on top, we've gotten better at bottom with spending very little time on, like, actually on bottom.
Right. You're going to have to defend the good top. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. When you're anyway.
So it's like, I mean, and we have some things that work really well for us, and it's, thank God, it's like, it's one of those things like people caught on, but like I'm just kind of big on like, okay, we go a weekend, like let's say we go to a tournament. I mean, we don't have tournaments, but like, let's say we had a tournament.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah. Like, like let's say in a normal year where we had tournaments and I noticed we did really well on our feet. Right. Then that next week, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on my feet. I'm going to focus on the area like where we need to. Like tomorrow when we go to practice, we're only wrestling on the mat tomorrow. Like today, all we did was wrestle on our feet, and we did a bunch of drills, like different drills, like like say you're in a high crotch, and you got to step in knee slide, step in knee slide, step in knee slide, step in knee slide, just to suck that leg up tight so you can finish, and different things like going over all your single legs finishes. Like, okay, if I can set the table, know exactly what I want to do. This guy sprawls. Like situation stuff like Nate was talking about, very specific, and running through that. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a method to my madness, but it's really kind of a thing, like I'll be going, like, I'll kind of go with the flow of practice. Like if I have a plan to go like on my feet and I see we're just not really like mentally there, then I'm going to switch gears. I'm not going to force something that's not like, I'm just not going to force it on them because mentally they're not like, okay, maybe we've done this too many days in a row. Maybe I need to switch it up, so I really just try to like pay attention to that and like what's going on, like right now, like I said, we spent the first couple of days on our feet. So now it's just, tomorrow it's just all mat wrestling, like I won't let anyone wrestle on their feet tomorrow. And then Friday, like, Friday, something I'm big on, and I stole this from Jay, is red flag days. I love red flag days. So basically what a red flag day for me is, what we do is we wrestle 6 matches. Okay, so we wrestle 6 matches. You wrestle a total of 6 matches, and you do like some stupid conditioning at the end, like a tripod on your head. Just something stupid just to mentally break you.
The old monkey rolls and
so I have it all played. So it's kind of cool is I have it all played to a YouTube list. I made a YouTube list. Like the kids love it. I made a YouTube list. So like we start off with hard drilling, and that's everyone's least favorite thing to do in the world is hard drilling. Like I hated hard drilling. If we're all being honest, like hard drilling is like the worst thing ever. I'd rather wrestle a 50-minute match than do like 5 minutes of hard drilling.
I bet Nate Humann liked hard drilling.
Actually, I did, to be honest.
Oh, man, you're that one guy. You're that one guy.
I figured that.
You're that one guy.
That's how you get in tremendous shape is hard drilling.
I'm not going to disagree with you, but I hated it as a big guy. When you got 240 pounds landing on you, man, that's awful. Like, you got like that much weight, but like, anyways, like I was saying, so like we start off like, and I pick a song like that's like, say 3 minutes long, right? So we do 3 minutes of hard drilling, and then after every song is over, they immediately start jogging. And then there's a motivational like video that goes like that lasts like a minute at the most, like a minute or 2 minutes at the most. And then that's their break. And then when that's over, they immediately like start their matches. So the next 6 songs, and of course I'm a Metallica fan, so that good old school Metallica, you never lets you down, man. Like they're all 6-7 minute songs. So when that song starts, they slap hands and it's go till that song's over. And then we just keep repeating that for six matches. And then when we're done, then they got to do like crazy thing. Like then they'll do like, not like super crazy, but everyone does them, but like just like buddy carries. They got to do buddy carries for like a song.
Spin drills and
yeah, just like something, you know, and then it takes about an hour and 20 minutes and then we're done, you know, and then it's like, and it's one of those things like, because I'm a big person, I'm a big person on, we gotta at least condition or do like some kind of hard wrestling for 30 minutes, you know, because we're allowed 5 matches in a day, 6 minutes a match, it's 30 minutes, you know, for 30 minutes of practice, no matter what I'm doing, like we gotta get a little crazy. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that idea of wrestling a live match, and when the song's over, your match is over. That's a cool idea. That's probably keeps it fun. Keeps it fun for the kids too.
And the fun thing is I can make it, you know, I have a different playlist, you know.
Yep.
So I have a different playlist, like you know, so it's not the same, and it's not like it's every week, you know, like every 2 weeks I slap on a red flag day. You know, and it's just like my older guys really like it.
They can build an internal clock that way too. They know the end of the song is coming. They better start going, picking it up.
I like it too. That's very cool. Nate, what's part of your playlist?
My playlist?
Yeah.
I don't play music. No one would like the music I played. I like country music.
Oh, what? There's nothing wrong with that. The old country boy will survive. I can see it.
But no, I didn't. My walkout song in college was not country music. It was something that pumped me up. But no, I'm a country music fan.
Okay. So you let Clay pick the music quite often?
Yeah, Clay, and then Danny Tanafu. He was playing some Michael Jackson in the room today.
Oh, man,
that was fantastic.
That's great.
We just play along with it, and then we make fun of the kids as their music is playing. So it's fun.
No, that's something you should have Clay do. So you have him pick out songs, get a 30-minute playlist or whatever, and good idea.
I'm definitely going to steal that, Brendon. That's a good idea.
Hey, man, that's why we do this stuff, man. Took a lot of my stuff from good coaches, so.
Yep.
So, Bill, you must have a couple questions for these two to start off.
I tell you what, I've been so excited to see what Brendon's been doing up there in Devils Lake. And, you know, one thing I always noticed was there was always a lot of kids in the Shooting Stars program. And then all of a sudden, you know, the numbers were kind of dwindling at the high school. And I, like you mentioned, it was kind of deathly there for a little bit. And, you know, now the retention has really been strong. They got a good program. You know, one thing I guess I just got to ask, Brendon, how excited were you going into that state finals this year? Right? I happen to be standing next to Brendon going up into the before those state finals started, and you could not have been any more jacked up.
Oh man, yeah. I'm a high energy guy. Like I live for that stuff. Something I'm a big person. I tell my kids all the time, like pressure is a privilege. Like that's something I talk to my guys about. And I got that from a famous basketball coach and player, Doc Rivers. Have you ever heard of Doc Rivers? Mm-hmm. Amazing thing I ever heard. It was like pressure is a privilege, you know, and that.
That's great.
And so like I loved it. You know, I love that atmosphere. Like because there's always that fear. Like people are always like, you know, like there's that fear that you can't escape the fear, right? Fear is always around us. So like you can either embrace it, like because there's so much energy. Like I always talk to these kids, like when you get to that state tournament, that's why I make them. And I'm sure that's why I see Bismarck. I'm sure that's why Nate, your guys are out front when you guys are drilling at state. I know that's why like Bismarck High and stuff is because you need to like feel the energy in that room, you know, and like that energy is either going to crush you, you know, or you just have to embrace it, you know, like the old method, like grab the bull by the horns, you know. And I just like that, like there's nothing more that gets me more excited than those placing rounds. Like that's why I was crazy enough to like try to think I could pick up my, you know, like my 6'6", like 300, you know, all 300-pound heavyweight last year. That's why I was crazy enough to think that I could pick him up after his like third place match, you know, like
that's not talk about that one.
Sorry, Nate. But like that's why that's just stuff just gets me hyped, man. That's why I live for, because that's why I talked about do something great. when those kids are in those moments, they're doing something great. They're doing something they never thought of. Like when I first met Brant, he could barely do a pull-up, like he could barely do a pull-up. He could barely do push-ups, and like, he's at like, and like, I remember the first time I looked at him, I said, Brant, I want you to wrestle on your knees. And he's like, what? He just looked at me like, why would I wrestle on my knees? Like, cause you're awful. I was like, you're awful at you're awful at tying up. Like you try to tie up and everyone gets on your legs. I was like, just start down, but yeah, it was just like, just like, I just live for that. So yeah, that energy, just like, oh, I live for that, man. Like that just gets me going. It's hard to contain myself. Like, that's why I know some refs think I yell at them. No, that's just me being excited. Like,
yeah, no, it was exciting. It was good to see. I'm glad to see the fire that's coming out of the room, and it's been really a pleasure to see the program doing as great as it is up there. And
thank you.
And I, we all know, you're the captain that leads that right now. But there's a whole team of people that keep those shooting star kids coming, and so it's really been nice to see. It's a big community effort there.
Yeah, I admire the respect. Like when I watch you coach, like your guys come off the mat and the first person they're looking at is you command their respect. So I gotta say I admire that.
Thank you.
Yep. So you talk about that fire. Now, how do you control it in the sense of off the mat? Here's what's interesting. As a coach, that emotion has to be, tight knit around the mat. And we have a couple of referees, especially at the state tournament, looking to ding you. Do you tell me first, who are some of your assistant coaches that help you out? Let's get some names out.
So Brent Mittleiter, he's been a huge blessing for me. He actually came from Eslick's program up in Jamestown. So I knew Brent. I knew Brent before he got, because he got restationed here because he's in the guards. So he got restationed here. That's just been a huge blessing because he's that calm person I need. He's that calm person I need because I'm like just super intense, like all the time, way up here, and he's that like nice balance. And then Fields Olson was my other assistant. Unfortunately, this year though he can't because unfortunately his unit and the guards got restationed to Bismarck. So he's traveling. He's in that mess of traveling back and forth. And trying to do that stuff and in that.
If they can get COVID figured out, would he be able to coach with you again, or is it on?
It's not because of COVID. It's like his unit. So whatever, I can't remember the unit that he was in, but it got transferred, I guess, like something. He got transferred to, and he got repositioned in Bismarck. So, and then because he's got permanent establishment here, like, and he doesn't want to uproot his kid and and stuff like that, and whatnot. So like he's just making that transit. While he's there, he's staying with and so unfortunately, it's just not working out this year. We're hoping next year that things change and we can get him back. And then actually this year I picked up an assistant, one of my graduates, if you guys remember James Fisk, which is nice, which is really nice because him and Brent are kind of that calm demeanor I need. Like they're intense when they need to be, but they're that nice balance for me to keep me in check. Because there's sometimes, I'll be straight up honest, there's sometimes in duels I'd be like, Fields, go talk to him because I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. or like Brent, you go talk to him because I can't right now. Like you handle that right now, just because it is tough, like as coaches, it's really tough, man. And like we get so wrapped up in the match and the emotions of the match that, like sometimes we you need that person just to like, kind of rub your back, like just take a breath, like, I mean, it's something I'll never, like, it's something I've gotten a lot better at. I hope. But I know from when I first started coaching to now, like I used to be nuts. Like I used to be like my dad, like when he first started, just, and I've kind of learned to not like, I've kind of like learned to tame it down. Like there's just some things like it's just not worth it. You're not gonna, there's nothing you can do. And actually, I picked this up from Melmer. He's like, instead of saying anything, he's like, just say you're better than that. Like, come on, you're better than that. Like,
Nate gets intense too. He had to walk away last year.
I've seen Nate get into it too. Like, we all have that moment. We just all have that moment.
You have high expectations for certain kids. You want them to reach it, and I probably go over the top, but hopefully they'll appreciate it someday down the line.
Yeah, it's that passion though. It's hard. Yeah. Like, it's hard. We're so passionate about what we do, and there's like, and I'm not speaking down on any other sports, but I don't think there's any other sport that gets the attachment that we do to these kids. Like, we're there. Like, we're there through the good times. We're there through the bad times. Like, we're their counselor. We're their dad. Like, we're everything. Sometimes, like sometimes, like, I remember, like, I remember when I was at Davies with Spies for a while before I got back to Devils Lake. I remember, like, like going to buy kids clothes and stuff like that. And you just like, and same thing where I'm at Devils Lake now, like, that's the reality. Like, we don't get the kids like that are always from the best homes or anything, we're kind of the misfits, so like, you just develop this like unreal attachment to the kids, and it's, and sometimes you have a hard, like, you're just, sometimes it's hard to separate that, just.
Definitely. Do you know Devils Lake, the wrestling history quite well or not? I'd have a couple questions.
Shoot, I'll do the best I can.
Okay. Do you know who the coach was previous to your dad?
Oh my, I think that was Jim Lamb.
Very good. Jim Lamb. I actually went to a wrestling camp in Devils Lake because my mom actually grew up in a small town called Holtan, North Dakota, which is right close to Carrington.
Okay.
And so in the summer, I'd get stuck at grandma's house. And grandma found out that Jim Lamb was having, and she goes, well, don't take offense to this, anybody. That Mormon up there's got a wrestling camp, because he was Mormon. That Mormon, that's what my grandma used to say. And then so what happened is then they took me up to this little wrestling camp up with Devils Lake. And I wrestled some kids from Carrington pretty much. In fact, it was Peterson. There was a Peterson kid from Carrington I wrestled. And then also, who was the doctor?
Wagner.
Doc Wagner had his boy up there, and I wrestled them a lot.
Yeah.
And then
that's pretty good. That's pretty good competition.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Jim Lamb, very good. He was up there for a long time previous to your dad. And
so would he have coached? Did your dad coach Scotty Owens and like James Kiskin and those guys, or was that the previous coach?
Yeah. So my dad stepped in. It was Kisgin's junior year, I think.
Because he's got a heck of a program that he's coaching right now.
Yeah,
they're very good.
Yeah, you want to you want to talk about a complete turnaround? Like, no one's even ever heard of McKendree until Kisgin got there, and then their women, and then their women's program too.
Yeah,
like that's the other thing that's unreal that doesn't get enough credit. Like, is how good their women's program is, and on top of their men's program right now.
Right.
Like, I tell you what, you guys want to talk about, we were talking about passionate coaches. Like, wow, like, you guys ever seen the women's coach?
Sam Schmitz? Yeah, they got a good thing going there.
I think they got a couple memes of him right now.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
See, you actually brought up my next question. The other ones, who are some of the wrestlers from Devils Lake that have moved on to go other places? That's where I was heading.
Well, Scotty, I know I'm probably going to catch some crap from this, but in my opinion, he's probably the best to come out of Devils Lake just because of his accolades, and I know someone might hate me for that, but it is what it is. It's my opinion.
University of Mary. Yeah.
But he won Fargo's, he was a couple times junior cadet national champion in both freestyle and Greco. Kisgin never did it. I never did it. Ness never did it. Ballard never did it. So he did. I can't remember what James did. In college, but I think James, and if I was to put someone on a scale, it depends on who you ask. It could be Kisgin, or it could be Owens, or it could be Ness. But in my opinion, I would probably say Scotty.
In fact, I visited with Scotty tonight. I went to the Bismarck High room for a little bit and listened to, give you news next week, Jeff Schumacher, Wednesday, time for you guys to watch. Got Jeff coming on. And we ended up standing there, Jeff, and Scotty and I talked Iowa because Jeff has got some experience wrestling for the Iowa Hawkeye Club for quite some time. And so we sat there and just visited for a half hour, and Scotty's got such a great smile. He's always, how can you say it? It seems like he's always happy, but his boy's just a freshman. He's in the
breath of fresh air, man.
And he's going to be about a 52-pounder this year, I'm guessing, right in that range. But no, Scotty, good dude.
Telling him his son, his son can live in my house and coach him.
Yeah, he's going to get some varsity time shortly. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now Nate, a couple questions for you now. I was thinking about some of your college career. Now, I never did ask you who in the room you were wrestling with in the room while you were there. I'd like to hear a couple names.
At Mary?
Yep.
Tate Barnhart. That was my main practice partner. And I would tell anybody that most of my success in college was from wrestling him and just taking the beatings that I got from Tate. Great guy. Wrestling him, kind of the story of my college career. I started at Concordia Moorhead, and that didn't really work out, and I ended up transferring back to Mary my second year of school. And I just wanted to wrestle, but I didn't really have any expectations of being a starter or anything like that. And then the guy that was ahead of me moved away, and I stepped in the next year. I had 2 years left, and my attitude going in that first year was, I don't want to lose points for the team. So I didn't have expectations in wrestling that year. Wrestling with Tate, I found myself getting better and better, and I was competitive with all these guys. And then bring a guy like Jared Reese into the room, and went to the national tournament as his practice partner over spring break, because why not go to the national tournament, and saw what that was all about. And man, I really like to do that next year, and fell in love with training and, going with wrestling with Tate all the time. He held you to a high standard, and I tried to, follow his lead and hold other guys in the room to a high standard. So yeah, he was my partner.
Mm-hmm. In college. How about Aho as a coach?
Great coach. Love the guy. He's easily, he kept it fun, kept it light. If you ever needed a guy to go talk to, he was the man. Really relatable as an athlete. So athlete-coach relationship. So it was good.
How about you, Brendon, when you went to Minnesota? I don't know who's echoing a little bit there. But how about when you went to Minnesota? What was your experience, with some of the practices there? Because that's intense with J-Rob.
Oh, man. So my three guys I rotated on, because as a freshman, you're just it.
You're a nobody.
Survive. So the three guys I rotated on was Cole Conrad. And that was, oh my gosh, that was a nightmare. Like, you want to talk about a big athletic man that can move. When the worst part is, I'm not that tall, and he had a mean foot sweep. So he's used to wrestling heavyweights, that are big and tall. So like his foot sweep, every time he would do it, like it would just smoke me in my knee, I'm like 5'10", like 5'10" and a half on a good day, depending on what shoes I wear, so like, so for me wrestling like him and like, that was just like kind of one of those things. Like I know Marty Morgan used to get a couple laughs out of that every time, but so like he, and it's just one of those things. And then the other person I rotated on was Roger Kish, and like we know Roger Kish, like he's the head coach at NDSU now. Like that guy had the most unreal heavy hands I've ever came across in my life. Like I learned like how like Nate said, you learn a lot from your beatings, and like I mean. I learned so much from him, like getting my butt kicked every day. Like you went from like, for example, like when I graduated, I mean, I could take down anyone, like I could get in a high crotch or get in on a single leg, like low single or something. And I could take down like anyone that was my age. And then all of a sudden I got into that room. It took me a month to get one takedown, like it took me 1 month. Like you're like, what is going on? Like you're like you have to learn how to wrestle all over again, like it's insane. Like, because the last thing, like, Kish or Conrad want to have is some incoming true freshman, like take him down. I remember I got punched in the face by Conrad for almost taking him down. Like, I remember getting punched, like, and it wasn't like, like it wasn't like a mean punch. It was just like, kind of like letting me know, like, hey, like,
it's too
like,
close.
Like I'm the alpha, like I'm the alpha. You're not allowed to do that yet, So like, yeah, I definitely took my beatings, man. Definitely took my beatings. And then it's kind of this, is super intense room. Like, I know this is going to sound crazy and people might think this is crazy, but like, if a fight didn't break out in that room, like something was wrong, and like when I got to Iowa Central, it was the same thing, and I know we've all heard the name like John Jones, like, and he, in his unreal career as a UFC fighter. But like when I was at Iowa Central, like that was one of my other workout partners, and like, so like, it's just like amazing. And how Nate said, how like that workout partner just brings you to another level, like, because you are only as good as like your partners, like if, and it's kind of the same way in life. Like your self-esteem will match who you're around, like how you feel about yourself. Like, so like when you're like, if the high intensity in that room is up, like it's going to bring you to another level, like, I mean, in college, I was probably like a 500 wrestler. I wasn't anything special in college, because number one, like I was wrestling heavyweight. That was awful.
What,
like,
if you might let me ask, well, what was the heaviest you ever got?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man. I'm not afraid to say that. That's why you see this right here, -100. I like I let myself go. Not when I was wrestling, but I had a short time in my life where I kind of let myself go, didn't care about life. But anyways, got pretty big. But like in college, like I just couldn't make 97. Like that was rough. Like I still can't believe that in college we don't have like a 215 or like a two. Like I can't believe there's not. Like the fact that we only have 10 weight classes in college blows my mind. Like why? Like the chance of a draw should never happen. It should always be an odd number. But anyways, that's a different story. But yeah, I always had trouble getting to 97. Like I could never make 97. I was always that guy like walking around.
And you weigh what right now?
225.
Yeah.
Like and that's when I got to college. Like I cut down, but then I got on a weight program, and like like you get on a weight program, and like all of a sudden you're like with a professional. Like I mean, you're a professional lifting coach. A guy that could go like train Olympic athletes, and like your gains just like like it's unreal. Like how you take off. I remember like benching like 300 pounds before I left. And by the time I was done with my freshman year, like I could probably like I never maxed out, but like I was in the rep range of like 375. Like that's like it's unreal. Like some of the stuff like when you get on an actual like you think you know how to lift, and then you go to college.
And you're consistent with it too.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. And you have a program that's designed just just specifically for you. Like, so that was kind of my college experience, like wrestling heavyweight. And I always weighed like I would be like 210. I remember most of my freshman season I was like 210, 205, like 205, 210, wrestling guys that are like 295. Like, remember my coach one time yelling at me like get your hands locked. I'm like, coach, I can't. I couldn't get my hands around like my little T-Rex arms. That's why I always laugh. I always got these little T-Rex arms. They're great for like in close. But like those big heavyweights, I could never get my hands locked on some of them.
Yeah, definitely. So Bill, what you got going on in college stuff? Let's start there for a little bit, then we can talk some more. We're already sitting almost at an hour.
Yeah.
So quick it goes.
I guess I'd just say the kind of college itself, I guess the exciting part is, all the local colleges started their practice season last Friday or Saturday. First day of official practice was Friday. I'm sure some started Friday and some probably didn't start till Saturday, coming off the Thanksgiving. They're gonna wrestle hard here until the Christmas break. They got to take a mandatory 7 days off, and then they'll be back, and 10 days or so after that they'll be wrestling their first duel. The schedules have kind of been put out when we're looking at the NSIC. We will see, all these North Dakota and Moorhead schools all wrestle each other, so that'll be good. There is not, go ahead.
I couldn't figure out when sorry, Bill. I couldn't figure out when the NSIC built that schedule. That's kind of arbitrary to decide on 6 duels when there's only 9 teams in the conference. They couldn't duel everybody. I thought that was completely odd.
Yeah, it really came down to if they had more than one match a week, right now, if they have one duel a week, they have to do 2 COVID tests a week. If they had an additional duel, that would bump up to 4 COVID tests a week, with one of them being a rapid test. So
that's expensive, I suppose.
It just became a money issue. Yeah. And I will say, we had Rocky on a few weeks ago, and I know, Northern State was all for it. They, the athletic department was willing to pay that money. But not every school was, right. So that's kind of where they ended up. Okay. And that's why we couldn't even, here's Jim Makovsky just popped on. But
the question,
but Jim, would probably be able to, give us a little more info there, but that was the gist of it. That's what I was hoping, they could have as many as, I think, 12 dates. So, I was wishing at least they would have, maybe have a Friday.
Jim, if you hop by your computer Saturday, and want to hop on for the last few minutes, feel free to hop on, Jim. Since you're listening, if you're at home and you want to pop on for a few minutes, we'd love to see you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Giving you an opportunity. I did send you a link, so just hop on your email, Jim. Okay. Yeah. So keep going, Bill. I just had to interrupt.
Throw that comment up there. Throw Jim's last comment up. I liked it.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of the situation there. Everybody, and I guess the same goes for the D1 guys, right? They've got to get their season started too. I have not seen any schedules for say NDSU or even the Gophers. I don't think the Big Ten, I think they will only wrestle in conference duels. I don't think you'll see them going out of conference. We won't see a big and I don't even know that they'll probably do kind of like the NSIC did, where they will have just see a kind of a pod. And with the NSIC, what they did is they had 2 pods, and then they had 2 duels outside of their pod. So like Northern State will wrestle Moorhead, Southwest Minnesota State, Minot, Mary, and then the 2 outside will be
Augustana.
No Augustana
really?
This year. That's a duel. That's a rivalry. I guess it's hard to call it a rivalry when they get beat so bad every year for 40 years. We did beat them a couple years ago, so that was good. But Wisconsin Parkside and Upper Iowa. Those will be the 2 outside of the pod, and then it looks to me like Moorhead or Mary will have St. Cloud as one of their outside the pod deals. So, and I think that is at Mary, so that'll be a good duel to probably
go to.
I think that's their first duel of the year. Actually, I got to look at the schedule again.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a great way to start. Yeah, so that's kind of the situation there in college. If we get Jim to jump on, we'll get a little more information there. Now, when we start talking about the senior circuit, we've got this weekend. Flow Wrestling has the Regional Training Center Cup, so that will be fire, right? It's 2 full days. Everybody's going to be coming from around the country to a location in Ohio. We're going to see some really great matchups. It's unfortunate there are a few of those teams have become a little bit depleted. We're not going to see Gabe Dean, Kyle Dake, Max Dean. None of them are going to be wrestling for, and I don't know the reason. Very possibly it's, I'm going to blame it on COVID. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And no Jaden Cox, for the Ohio RTC. So those are ones that are kind of a bummer, but we are going to see some great matchups. We're talking heavyweights. We're going to see just in the pool play, we're going to see Gable Stevenson wrestle Nick Gwizdowski and either Mason Paris or Kuhn. I'm guessing it'll be Paris, but that will be really exciting. That's probably very possibly your top 3 guys on the Olympic ladder.
Okay,
those will be the guys that'll be coming right down to the end. We're going to see Seth Gross, who's been looking great. He's wrestling for the Cliff Keene Athletic Club this week.
So what are the 6 again? Is it New Jersey,
New Jersey RTC, which has got a couple of guys from the Southeastern RTC.
Which is Virginia Tech, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yep. You've got the Wolfpack RTC, which is North Carolina State.
Okay.
You've got Ohio RTC, which of course is Ohio State. You've got the
Minnesota
RTC.
That's the Storm, right, or whatever.
It's a Storm. Yep. Now they're pretty much calling it the Minnesota RTC. So that's who are we missing?
Ohio, which is Cornell.
Cornell.
Cliff Keen, is that
Cliff Keen is Michigan. Yep.
Oh, that's Michigan. Okay.
And then Cornell is the Spartan Combat. So that should be the 6, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
trying to remember them all myself, but I looked at it about a week ago.
I think I have the schedule right here. They're going to have, I think I have, if I can find them. Let's go.
Okay. Well, Friday, I remember that Ohio, I think, faces New Jersey right away.
Yep. Yeah. Ohio RTC versus New Jersey Southeast Regional Training Center first, and then Ohio.
That's right during my prep, so I'll catch it.
Perfect.
No.
And then Ohio against the Spartan Combat, which, like you said, is Cornell, and then after that will be Spartan Combat and the New Jersey RTC. So there's going to be some
for those out there. That's all going to be on Flow Wrestling too.
Correct, all on Flow Wrestling. Then the second pool will be Cliff Keen and the Gopher. So right off the bat, we're going to get to see, Seth Gross will be in that duel against probably Zach Sanders, I assume. You're going to see there'll be a lot of good matches there. I think Cliff Keen's going to win this thing. They're pretty solid. Plus they add a hammer like Seth Gross in there. Plus they got the Ragusan kid that looked really good at senior nationals. You got Cliff Keen and Wolfpack going to wrestle, and then you got Wolfpack and Gopher our wrestling club going to wrestle. So those will all be on Friday, and then Saturday, they're gonna keep going into the place rounds, and they're gonna have $200,000 in payouts for.
There wasn't money back in our day.
No.
How do you think they're going to split that? Is that I haven't heard, does that go directly to the athletes on the winning team, or does it go to the regional training center? I mean, not that it matters, but I was wondering
there's going to be a few of these kids that have college eligibility left. So they're going to be left out. And I think some of the other guys are wanting to get more good guys with college eligibility left so they can split it amongst themselves.
Here's the table, here's the money.
Yeah. Here's the table. Here's the money.
Yep. Slide it right underneath.
Yeah. So they
going to an offshore bank account.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, obviously it'd be great if we could get. I mean, this is what we've all wanted. I think in when it comes to senior level wrestling. Not in my day, there wasn't, Sean. We just had checkers and a few other things. So
Pinochle. Hey, radio was on.
Yeah, Pinochle.
TV was on the radio.
Yeah, that's right. It was the television of the mind. So these are.
Friday's going to be a fun day, but Saturday when they break it into the different pools, it's going to be kind of interesting there because you could have the same matchups again.
Yeah, and they could go a different way because they, freestyle is so wild because I could have one match where Nate and I wrestle and he takes me down and leg laces me 5 times and the match is over. And the next time I push him out 4 times, I win 4-0, right?
That's just it. That's what I was going to say. It's so unpredictable. And these guys are all so good that, it's hard to predict. I watched FRL today and they were trying to go through and predict. And you only have 6 matches too. So there's so many swing matches in there to predict who's going to win in a 3-3 or a 4-2. And then freestyle duels have that criteria where if you shut a guy out, that's worth an extra point. Yeah, it's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't hear that. Tell us that criteria. I didn't hear that part.
I don't know my freestyle criteria because I never wrestled at junior duels, but I do know you get an extra bonus point if you win and your opponent scores 0 points.
Yeah, and those points only come into play if the duel ends up 3-3.
Okay.
Right. So those extra points where whether it's a tech fall, a pin, or a shutout really are only going to come into play if, it's easy, right? I win 4. I mean, we win 4, you win 2, we win, right? but if it's 3-3, then those other points come into play.
Okay.
And I kind of know them, I guess, but I could definitely screw it up. So that's you'll know when you watch it, right? They'll tell you who won.
Well,
so,
Saturday night, 8:00, instead of like last weekend, it was the Tyson fight. This week, it should be Flow Wrestling.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a lot of fun.
My tree stand then.
Yeah. You should have shot your deer by now.
He's waiting for the big one. I can look behind him and see he doesn't shoot little deer.
Yeah.
So, so I mean that's what's going on, I guess, on the international side. We didn't really talk about it much, but we had a couple pretty neat cards last week with both the Penn State RTC, the Nittany Lion RTC having an event. Probably, I mean, no doubt the match of that event was Gabe Dean and David Taylor. That was a really good wrestling match. I mean, that match, Gabe Dean could have won that match. I mean, that's yep. Just all no one has touched David Taylor for, I don't know, since he's moved to 86 kilos.
Didn't see it, but they said David Taylor got tired, and usually David Taylor, he's the one gassing out Yazdani and the best in the world. Like, his pace is unreal, but they said Taylor kind of got a little tired. Is that true?
You know what? It was a little bit, but like you watch a guy like Kyle Snyder, right? He looks like he's tired and he's still shooting and going after things. And Taylor was kind of the same way. But I think Gabe Dean makes guys tired. I mean, I think that those hands, he is a bull. I think he's got hands that are just made of cement, and he put some pressure on him, and he was in and awful close to getting the takedown there at the end of the match, and ended up giving up 2 instead. But that surely could have gone the other way. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good. I got a couple minutes here.
Well,
good,
awesome.
Good.
Flynn,
well, it's good to see you. We got you on. You must have got the check in the mail.
Yeah. Not as big as the scholarship we offered Flynn when he came to visit, though. Who did you come to campus with?
Lance Hoffman, not Lance.
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah, the leg rider. And then you ended up going to NDSU, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that now. I think you guys enjoyed Mankato.
Yeah, I had a good time. Unfortunately, I was just in a bad headspace at that point in my life after trying to make a decision then.
We could have got the kinks worked out. I don't know where to look on this thing.
You're perfect. Just look.
Yep. You're doing fine. No, quick introduce yourself. We got Mankato head wrestling coach on. I've known him since I was a kid. I tell you what, when I was a high schooler, I had an opportunity. I almost went to Valley City State for a little bit because my dad was an alum there, and Jim was there for a bit before we went down to Mankato. And I tell you what, I didn't visit because I didn't think I'd be a teacher, and here I am. I am a physics and chemistry teacher. Jim, why don't you introduce yourself?
If you'd have came. Lives would have changed.
Yep.
But Nader, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Got your deer hunting T-shirt on.
I'm repping.
Yeah, you guys were talking. I heard you guys talking Northern Sun.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yeah. Tell us what your schedule is looking like in that rendition.
And you might have to speak up or get a little closer to the mic.
Let me see here. I don't want to knock this thing over.
There, you're fine.
Hang on 1 second here. There. Is that better?
Okay.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
All right. So 6 dual schedule. It took a lot of work just to get to that. At the beginning of all this stuff, we were just we were taking 2 duels in regionals and nationals. We would take anything, and then they just kept buying the pot. All of a sudden, let's do this, and then it was, well, you can do it, but you're gonna have to test 3 times a week, and it's gonna cost this amount of money. At that time, tests weren't readily available, and they were like $100 a pop. So we have a pretty big athletic department. It was going to be like $900,000, something like that. And then it's kind of funny after the election was over, all of a sudden there were semi trucks coming to Mankato with free testing. And coming to campus and almost as if they wanted to get the numbers boosted up a little bit of positive tests. They picked college towns, and we have our old Gander Mountain building. It's free testing out there. We have people from South Dakota coming to get free tests. So if you guys can't get them there, I know Bill. I think some of South Dakota, maybe it was Jesse. It was telling me you can go to like Hy-Vee or something and get free tests now. So now, like we were behind. We were way behind, like Rocky and Aho and all those guys, because they were going and we were shut down. We're just finishing up. We'll finish up our third week of actual contact practice. Otherwise, we had no contact all school year.
Oh, yeah.
But we start testing 3 times a week. And because our governor here in the state of Minnesota, he's like one little cell of DNA away from Gavin Newsom in California. And he shut everything down here last week. You can't go out and eat, can't do anything. He shut down all the fitness centers. So they shut down all of our fitness centers on campus, including our athletic weight room, until we could test 3 times a week. And we have a pretty aggressive AD, and he got that figured out. Well, now that we have that, we're all learning about the contact tracing. Where our hockey team went up to Bemidji for their first series, played that night, had a positive test. Well, because they're on the bus together, the whole bus had to get shut down. So we're working on that.
Stupid.
Now, I heard they announced today that the quarantine's only going to be 7 days.
Yeah.
And stuff now, but the NCAA, I'm guessing, is going to have a committee meeting at the end of December or mid-January to kind of get in line with that. And
March 20th.
but just this one thing after another that everybody's going through it. We're all adapting to it. But it's just been awesome being in the room with the guys, being able to lift and get on a schedule and be around each other. But I don't know, Nate and Brendon, I don't know what your memories are of open tournaments. I think they're important for your team chemistry, and you're sitting, the red shirts are driving together, telling stories that are 75% true. And
I wouldn't even go that far.
Yes.
They build confidence too. I mean, let's be honest, that's what they're for too. Building confidence for guys too. So
yeah, well, like if you look at the wrestling room like a classroom or like a laboratory, the open tournaments and duels and stuff are like quizzes and tests where you can evaluate for the big final at the end. And so we have something to go on. But I'm big. I think the chemistry in the room, getting to know each other, and the older guys don't really hang out at the dorms, and we can't have team meals or get-togethers. So that part's lacking. So we've been. I was hanging out with some freshmen today. We're in different groups right now, different pods. So I'll hang out with them just to hang out with them and go, hey, see that guy? Like Kyle Rathman, who's ranked #1 right now. And we're just watching him drill. And it's sexy. It's beautiful, like flow, like a good drill. Like I was talking to someone, they said, Brendon, did you say something about you don't like live speed drilling or something?
No, it's not my favorite. I'm not a fan favorite of hard drilling. I love doing it for my athletes, but it was my personal least favorite as an athlete.
Yeah, so we have heavyweight corner. I think every wrestling room has heavyweight corner.
That's Brendon's corner.
Corners because you got 2 walls to run into, so you don't have to hit the mat when you're drilling.
Yeah, it's always the smallest. It's never the biggest space. It's the smallest space.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But just watching them, I'm having to watch guys because they don't get a chance to bond with them and watch them in practice, and just going like Kyle Rathman never won a state title, but he's got a motor and he's learned the art of drilling and how it's like it's like a neighbor. There's nothing better than a good neighbor. There's nothing worse than a crappy neighbor. I mean, they're a bad drilling partner. So some of that's an art form and all this stuff, but just showing those guys like, hey, here's what that guy went through. Trevor Turuff, 184 pounder. He never even made it to state. And I thought he had a shot at winning a national title last year. And I go, and the kid I was talking to is a couple times state champ. And I'm just like going like, you get to know all these guys and their stories when we start traveling. And being in the hotels and eating out of the cooler after weigh-ins and all that kind of stuff.
And you can't replace that time. You need that bond.
You can't. Not only that, but like if Nader's my teammate and we're both redshirting, we're sitting in each other's corners. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to look over and see this guy that I didn't know 2 months ago sitting in my corner. And now all of a sudden I look over to see what I'm supposed to do. And he's like, I don't know what you do. Are you good on top? Like, you know what I mean? And so you get to know each other. And I think, when guys are feeling pressure and stress and all that stuff, and there's a point to this, what I'm going to say is, when they're feeling that, I always remind them, like, what do you love about this sport other than winning and losing? Because winning and losing is like one of 80 things being involved in the sport, and focus on that part of it. And the winning and losing, that's like the candy. That's the fun part. And it shouldn't be stressful. And so it's relationships. These guys, like you're going to be in each other's weddings and go hunting and stuff for life, and come back for reunions, all that kind of stuff. And it's the relationships and going, but you kind of got to go through stuff. We had a kid quit last year that joined a frat, and frats they're fine, but like wrestling and being on a team, Brendon, don't get me in trouble. But if you're on a team, like, that's not one that you don't buy your way in. You don't buy your way in. It's because you go through stuff together, and not just the stuff the wrestling part, but stuff in the dorms. Guys get homesick. They're wondering if they're ever going to pop through. It's tough in the room. The first, you get a few takedowns against anybody good before Christmas, you're probably calling home. And so it's hard, but that's where you pick each other up. And especially the upperclassmen, taking off the tape off your hands after practice, sitting there sweaty and wiping a little blood off your eye, sitting there with a young buck and just going, dude, what kind of age you have? And he's like, I got my ass kicked. And it's like, yeah, let me tell you a story. Like, I didn't get a takedown until January, because they bust through that. And we all have guys on our teams that I was talking to Kyle Rathman. Nader, you remember Kyle?
Yep.
49 pounder. He's a cool dude, surfer. Even though he's never surfed before, but he just seems like just goalie from the Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But I can't remember what we were talking about now.
Well,
like with Kyle and all that stuff. I'm like, Kyle, think of all the stuff that you've gone through and all that stuff, not just on the mat. And he's kind of got it a little bit made because he's one of our seniors that's not graduating. So I go, you're redshirting this year. And I say that to every guy in the team every day. Like, see them all, I go, hey, we made a decision, you're redshirting this year. And they're going, oh, really? I go, yeah. And I just walk away because the whole team is.
Yeah.
So our first duel, we come back, we have that mandatory break, which we've tried to blow up, that 7-day Division II break, because we're already behind. Everybody is behind right now on as far as getting competition in and practices.
We've already had our 7-day break.
Yeah, we've had a 7-month break, and we're getting things rolling, but we're not going to have any competition, to kind of get into the flow, like preseason stuff. And then we have that mandatory break, come back, and Wednesdays are my busy COVID day because we have all these meetings discussing where we're at and how we're going to do things. And now we're going to go back home for 7 or 8 days, which Dr. Fauci doesn't recommend. Don't go hang out with your family or anybody you're close to. And we're going to come back, and I asked, like, are we going to have to do like a mini quarantine or anything? Because that could be down the road. Like, hey, you guys if you came from Montana, you got to quarantine for 14 days and all this stuff. And because we drive up to Minot on January 7th, and learning from our hockey coaches, like, I might want to take 5 cars up there, because if one guy test positive, well, that your whole team's quarantined. And then my athletic trainer today said, well, not your backups. I go, well, who the hell do you think my backups wrestle? So they go back 2 days. They trace back 2 days. So it wipes them out. And
yeah, it's 48 hours.
Bill knows, like we have a 6 dual schedule. And the way it is right now, you're really out for 20 days because you get quarantined. And then you have the heart myocarditis thing where it's almost like return to practice with like a concussion.
For concussion, yep.
Okay, you got to be able to walk first.
The NSIC thinks they're the Big Ten, Jim, and I don't understand. Like just from a 10,000-foot view, I can't understand it. They think they're the Big Ten, and out of any of the Division I conferences, I think I think they've handled it the worst. I don't know what the NSIC is trying to prove, to be honest.
Don't get me in trouble.
Okay, sorry. Not trying to put words in your mouth, but I mean, it's just, yeah, it's a lot. I feel for you.
Oh, trust me, I know all about this. My team just, we were in quarantine for 14 days, like up until last November.
And we have way more lax rules, it sounds like, than you have in Mankato, because if we're wearing masks, we're not considered a close contact or anything like that. So, so that's
is that Mary or high school?
No,
that's high school.
High school.
Well, I know Aho doesn't. He's not going to follow the COVID rules if he doesn't follow all the other ones. So yeah, when you look at a 6 dual meet schedule, which, you know, we all respect each other at our conference. I mean, we battle each other, but we had some great discussions. We actually our coaches came together. We had some meetings without all the administrators and stuff, and we want to do its best, best experience for the kids and give them something meaningful because they need it right now. And I gave up a couple weeks ago, but I just kept fighting to move it all back to May. Just move it back, get away from the Trump Biden thing, maybe a vaccine, maybe we learn a little bit more about the virus and how it acts and how people react to it. And get away from flu season, all that stuff, because we have to do, I don't know if any of you guys have to do this, but we have to fill out a form every single morning saying if we have a runny nose or headache and half those symptoms I have in the summer, like
COVID questions.
Yeah, I don't answer any of those questions till after I had a big cup of coffee. That eliminates like half of them. And at first we got a little green thing on our phone. If they said like if security came up to you and asked you to see it, you'd have to flash it. And so it was like Russia. And so like, all that kind of stuff. And then we're trying to, I've been a little more conservative than some of the coaches here because I wanted them to be the canaries in the coal mine. And you go down there and I got an older brother and sister. I wanted them to get in trouble and learn from their mistakes.
So is your conference going to allow exhibition matches besides the duel?
We've talked about it. We all think it's a good idea with the exception of what we just talked about. It could quarantine your team. It gives those
you have to bring your whole squad to a duel. You have to bring and you have to bring most of your squad to a duel too, then obviously.
Yeah.
Well, and they all test.
Yeah, and that's where I was with, like I was for it in principle, like the idealistic part of my brain, but the logical part was I don't want to ruin it. Like I don't want to shut it all down again. And so that became kind of some disagreements, but like our conference, we have the Minnesota schools who I'm from North Dakota. My wife's from South Dakota. So we kind of lean way to that direction where let's go. Minnesota's not like that. Then Iowa, like Heath down there, upper Iowa, he doesn't know what the big deal is. And I'm like, well, Heath, because we have rules. Like they have one sheet of paper and pencil, like what their rules are. And, Rocky and Reitmeyer, most of South Dakota is just different. And you guys kind of got it a little bit later than us. It's kind of cycled all over the place. So We don't know. Like right now, we can't recruit. We can't go out of state. We can't have any out of state travel. So I'm like, well, how are we going to do that with our team? So our Zoom meeting this morning with our head coaches meeting, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but you kind of bite your lip for a month.
Yeah.
And then, but eventually that hose has got to come unkinked. And it came unkinked today. I asked a lot of questions. A lot of questions. And, basically the logistics. I mean, the officials are going to have to test. And that's a 15-minute test. You get the results back in 15 minutes. Well, what happens if he didn't even know it? And those guys have jobs. And a lot of them, if they're flexible jobs, they're usually they're in business. And some of their employees are saying, if you travel out of state, you come back, you have to quarantine for 14 days. And so there's just a lot of things. I still think we can do it, but we have to. January 7th is going to be here. Nate, you're a young buck. January 7th is a long ways away. to me and Bill and John, and to a degree, Brendon, January 7th is tomorrow.
Yeah.
You get caught in the rat race, it'll be here sooner. Yeah,
you have to hire an assistant coach that's also a certified ref.
I think I could. I wanted to hire Nate, but he
never sent me a contract, Jim.
Yeah, that was a sticking point, if I remember. It was like you had to donate to be our coach. You don't have our whole money. But, so I think we can do it. But we're all connected. All the wrestling schools are connected. All the different things that are happening on your university are connected. Like my boss, my athletic director, he doesn't come to me. The president doesn't come to me. He comes to the AD and lumps all of athletics together. And so we all have to do our part. And we're doing the 15-minute testing when we come back from breaks now. And
well, if we ever get to the nationals, it's wide open.
Yeah.
If we ever get to that point, I don't see any other way. Whoever's the most mentally tough is gonna do it. It's gonna be wide open.
Well, we're still waiting on answers for that and what the field size is going to be, because we've heard 50% of the field.
So you're saying a 32-man bracket or a 16-man bracket?
Division 2 only has 18 qualifiers. So and it's already. I don't know. In my opinion, it's tougher to qualify for the Division 2 national tournament than it is the Division 1 national tournament. Might get shots fired for saying that, but I don't know. I think it is.
Well, we don't have the at-large bids, and we don't have like the system of like your competition. Otherwise, Tate Barnhart would have been there. 7 times.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We all know.
Right.
That's what makes the regional tournament like a lot of fireworks too.
Yeah.
It makes it exciting, but it's not easy to get out. You got to have your stuff together on that day. And
but to cut it down, that'd be too bad for sure.
Yeah, so I don't to my knowledge, maybe you guys know more than I do. I don't think we even have a site yet.
That's what I was wondering. I was going to ask you that. I thought that maybe that had been, scrapped, that it wasn't going to be in Alabama, but yeah. So I don't know what the timing is that they're going to, tell us where it's at, or
bring it to Sioux Falls.
Yeah, will you let us know where it's going to be like the week before the plan?
Well, it'll be around a week before.
But Bill, they refuse to even break up that festival. Because every 4 years we have like a festival with swimming and track and field in Birmingham, Alabama. We drive through some rough neighborhoods, getting over to weigh-ins there. And I was talking to our NCAA guy, like Rocky kidded me that a couple weeks ago, but he's my buddy. But they wouldn't even bust up that festival. And I'm like, you guys, I don't watch the news a lot, but I do know having people from all over the country in different sports and all that stuff. I mean, those things, it's a zoo anyways. And I'm like, I asked Tressel, I go, did Birmingham give you guys a bunch of money and you already spent it? because why won't you bust this thing up? And so we really don't know. Now if the field size is going to be smaller and we go to open tournaments with 14 mats, if we're only going to have 80 guys, Aho jokes about having it in Bismarck at some guy's barn. He says he knows a guy's got a big barn. Something like that. We could have it anywhere. That's like 3 mats.
Yeah. We could have it in Carrington.
I'm in.
Yeah.
We'll do it anywhere. We just want
the old Jamestown Civic Center.
Oh God.
But yeah, like we don't need the curtains, all the fancy stuff this year. We just need a circle of rough, and it's truly about the competition and getting these guys out there, because some of these seniors are not coming back.
Right.
We've got engineers on our team, a lot of them, and when they're graduating, like, they start off making $100,000, and like, it's like, okay, well, do I come back and get my $3,000 scholarship, or do I go clear 97,000 and get on with it? And and that makes things tricky too, because talking to some of our other coaches here, how are you going to do that with your seniors? Like, are you coming back? There's a few of them we know aren't. And then there's some that we know are. We just got them into grad school.
And this senior class coming out of high school is the one that's actually not being, how can you say, recruited correctly or properly.
It's going to be a really interesting year for those guys, and I feel for them. Every coach is different. I don't necessarily target like multiple time state champs or anything. I like the guys that are coming on, and that's kind of where we've made our bread. Our best guys have been like one-time state champs or guys that are on their way up, and they're not going to have that opportunity to showcase that, and so they're going to have to do a lot of stuff like on their own, like self-recruiting and getting their name out there, and so yeah, it's weird. I mean, recruiting visits are weird. You don't have access to everything. Can't do overnights. And,
Zoom call.
What's that?
Just a Zoom call.
Pretty much. And I don't really like these things. I'd rather talk face to face, obviously, but I'm okay with audio only. I'm okay with that.
I like what Randy Lewis said last week. You guys aren't very pretty anyway. I don't have to look at you. His screen shut down. He couldn't see us.
Well, Randy's not winning any modeling competitions either.
No.
John, did you go to Shuey's camps back in the day?
You know what? I did not. What's interesting is all the stuff for camps, I was so busy with baseball that I missed out. Wrestling was second for me on the ladder in the summers. I didn't realize what I missed out on, because I came back and Terry and Troy Steiner wanted to wrestle as soon. I quit football, so my whole fall was wrestling with Terry and Troy, and they'd say, we got to catch you up, and then I'm going, what do you mean? I'm right with you right now. I didn't realize how much better you could be. So one thing I noticed later is the development between basically junior and senior year of Terry and Troy Steiner, because when they were juniors, I always like 2 classes above them, but between their junior and senior, they actually finally had some strength. They didn't have any strength before. They were wiry and they could throw some legs on, and they were unbelievable conditioning where they would go a match, like say kid from South Dakota. There's this Buxton kid they used to wrestle, and he was the same. Yep. Yeah. But he was they're the same caliber. And all of a sudden it turned out to be their junior and senior year. And they wrestled so well. All of a sudden I'm going, oh man, they're actually strong this year. I kind of had, my friends kidded me. They called it, pardon my language a little bit here. They called that Gums always had retard strength. And I was always just naturally strong. I didn't always lift weights. It was never that. I would grab somebody, and Terry and Troy Steiner, finally their senior year had some strength.
Plus they knew the positioning got a lot.
Always.
Yeah.
And so what was interesting is if I wanted somebody to work bottom, like we had talked, he didn't like working bottom, I could go one practice on bottom with Terry and Troy Steiner, and I knew I didn't want to be on bottom ever again, because they're going to rip your shoulders off if any way possible. And I physically at times wanted to probably strangle a couple of them in practice, because they were going to rip my arm off. They didn't care who I was a teammate or nothing. But they would have to pretty much rip my arm off to turn me over but guess what? You have to learn how to get out of legs. My true story, my junior year, I should have beat Steve McCormick in the state. He was Mr. Wrestler that year. Steve McCormick, you guys probably know him. Had him down 4-1 going into the last period. And my coach on the side says, go down. And I got turned twice and lost the match 6-4.
See, top or neutral, man. Top or neutral.
We didn't have the choice on our feet, though. Whole thing is you either had top or bottom. That in 87, you didn't have the neutral until 88. There was no
picking neutral, yeah.
There was no neutral till 88, which is the next year. You could
I didn't know that.
So you had to pick top or bottom, and then the next period you had to go down. And so let's pick in the third. Guess what? I had a chance. I could have picked top. And
who was cornering you? Was it Gabriel?
Willie McCollum.
Oh, well, yeah.
Willie McCollum went thumbs, didn't go like this, go down. But what's interesting is nobody turned me all year, but Steve McCormick. It was in the state finals. But I tell you what, it's interesting when it comes to coaches. I had complete trust. Whatever they said, I did. And that was one thing you also learned. And as us all being coaches, that you have to build a rapport with your guys that they trust you. And the Century Room's got half a dozen coaches about, and they let certain guys take them because they build that confidence. I heard, who was it the other day that said that they pick a couple weeks ago? You remember this, Bill? That they said they let the wrestlers. Oh, it was Conrad. Conrad from Dickinson had said that he allows their wrestlers to pick their coaches they want at the state tournament. They have and I was going, boy, that becomes interesting. As a head coach, you have to be very flexible and have trust in your coaches too. And so, I don't know, you've probably had that happen in your corner as much as you want to coach. You have guys that your wrestlers trust. Jim.
Yeah, sometimes that happens organically too.
Mm-hmm.
Like through open tournaments and again, relationships and all that stuff. Because when you're cornering a guy, it's not like the guy's got an earpiece in and you're telling him everything. Really what the guy do. Like if Flinner is my guy, I want him looking over knowing that I'm still in his corner.
Mm-hmm.
He's coached. He knows what to do. If there's one thing, maybe just a hand placement or something, because that's all he really needs. He doesn't need more static and this all this stuff. You got enough stuff going through your head.
So you're saying you don't lose your voice anymore?
No,
Jim coaching. Yeah, you haven't for years.
No, I'm into it. I like messing with the refs more than anything. It's something to do. Then Nader, your old guy, Llewellyn, he always tried to get under my skin.
He tried to get your goat. Yeah, that was the goal.
He wouldn't.
Nobody can.
He wouldn't. But yeah, if I'm cornering Flinner, I just want him to look over and go, dude, he unconditional love. Like he's got my back no matter what. So I don't have any extra pressure. And we always say we love our guys when they suck too. And you're not the king if you're winning it, and you're not a loser if you're not. It's now what? What's next? Let's learn from this and move on. And we're super competitive, but my assistant coach is Ty Eustace, and he wrestled at Iowa, and he's a big-hearted black and white guy. But we're both dads too, and we don't even watch whether you got your hand raised or not when we evaluate. It's, did you follow the process?
Mm-hmm.
Did you follow the process? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing in this match, in your preparation, your matches, and when you're breaking down your match afterwards? And are you doing those things in the practice room? And
do you value effort? Do you value effort a lot too? Like you can visually see effort too. Like, I mean, that's something that as a wrestler, I can't, like last couple of years in college, you figure out like just give your best effort. And then as a coach, you can see if guys are giving their best effort. You can talk to a guy about their effort too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not just the effort that people can see either.
Right.
It's like, what are you doing, prior to your match? Like in college wrestling, like in high school, you get in on a guy, 95% of the guys you wrestle are going to go over. Like they're not in your caliber. Well, you're in college, you're with those other 5%. And if you've been in a college room for a year, you've learned not the tricks of the trade, but you've learned the trade. and you've learned some of those little things that make a big difference. Basically some alpha tells, like you're the hammer or the nail, and it's not just one big hit. It's like a bunch of them, and they add up. And so we value effort a lot, but you got to produce too. You have to produce too. And you have to, but we don't ever ask anybody to produce more than what they're capable of doing. It's, because not everybody's going to be able to dunk, or run 100, a 9,900. Okay. If a 10.8's your best, let's find you to get yourself there. So I guess like I'm getting middle aged here. So it's like, I just want to preach it all the time. Just be the best version of yourself on a consistent basis. That is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So what are some of your newest plans for team building stuff that you're trying to do this? Are you still trying to just invent it as it goes along right now? Because with the pods and have a team leader in the group and.
Yeah. For me, I can only do my role. I can encourage, like we have a six-man leadership team. I go to them a lot. If there's tape on the locker room floor, I always say you don't crap where you sleep. But I don't use that locker room, but we have recruits come through it. Once you let the grass grow through the cracks in one little spot, it goes all over the place. So I rely on those guys. And then me and Coach Eustace, my assistant, we're very similar, but we also have differences. So we complement each other, I think. But before and after practice, just relationships with the guys. And I'm pulling my freshmen all know to walk by my office fast because I'm a junkie in practice. And when they walk by, I'm like, hey, Rathman. And then they stop. What's up, Coach? I go, hey, come here for a second. And then I'll just go, hey, what was your favorite kids show? Like when you were in elementary school, like just to kind of get the ball rolling and give them some crap and then the next thing you know, you got 4 guys in there. Now we're breaking Fauci's rules by having too many people in a small space. And I don't know, we just talk some business, some monkey business. Some of it might be by design and some of it's got to be organic too. Like you can't force it. And if they know you care about them and you have a relationship with them, I think that they'll just listen more, and they'll feel free to go full throttle.
Well, I tell you what, we were all suckers for team building when we were college students too. My quick 10-second college team building thing was Bucky would take us out to his cabin and make him take his dock out of the lake.
Oh boy!
and it was team building, but guess what? We found out the 3-2 beer was pretty good in Minnesota too.
I was going to say there's a keg, and I bet it wasn't 3-2.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like that kind of stuff. We haven't hung out one time. Like we usually do stuff like have barbecues at the house but I'm not big. I don't think most of our guys, like our wrestling clientele, is, at least in my experience, they're not big on like fake team building stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be like a common thing that's not like, it's not a play date, to get you to get friends. It's like, we're going to do something together. Now, I got a kid from Montana. He's a rancher. I just want to take the whole team out there and dig fence hole posts for his dad or something, just to have him see something different. And because this is supposed to be an experience, and sometimes I don't know if you guys know Rob Cole at Cornell. He's one of my favorite dudes in the world. And he is like, yeah, sometimes we take the fun out of this stuff too. You want to be intense and all that stuff and compete hard, but they all got into it when you were little because it was fun too. And so kind of reading your team, going, okay, might be time to back off a little bit. Today, our practice, we've been going hard and very structured. Today, they all looked at us and I go, warm up, get a drill, wrestle live, and get some conditioning in. Because we want to take inventory too. And true to form, all the older guys, they love those practices because they don't have to hear the coach barking all the time. But the young guys, it stresses them out because they're not sure what to do because they don't want to get yelled at or anything. And so a kid from Lakeville and a kid from Apple Valley at the end, I was watching them the whole practice, and they wanted to finish with sprints, but they didn't start them until the older guys did them because they had to see the guy, the silverback gorillas do it first, and then they just went like a bat out of hell as soon as those guys did it. And talked to them afterwards. I go, listen, push the limits here. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. We'll let you know we want to tame you. We'd much rather tame a tiger, than turn a lamb into something. So like, don't worry about it. If you're not getting yelled at a little bit, then you're not trying hard enough. We'll let you know if it's too much.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like some of it's got to be organic, and that's kind of taken away when you only see them 2 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was told once upon a time that the time the coach is not yelling at you, you better be scared, because that's the time they've probably given up on you.
Yeah.
And when they're quiet and you don't hear that stuff, and that's a scary thing. And that's a great advice.
I like to save the yelling for something real too. Like you always end up like Charlie Brown's teacher, and they don't even hear you. And sometimes if it's been going too good, I want some of the scripts so I have a reason to tip a chair over or something, just to kind of bring everything back home again. But yeah, it's like I was talking to those rookies. I go, you know what? Like you guys have open minds. That's awesome. I go, because that's not every freshman. I go, because if you guys haven't figured it out, me and Coach Eustace are screwed, because we've been doing this. We've been on teams since we're 7 years old and stuff, and we don't have it figured out yet. We're learning every day. And if you do, then we'll just move on to some guy that doesn't. And, but we have a great group of guys though too. And, but I like the organic stuff. Ty's not a big yeller either, unless it's warranted.
So, yeah. So what's your biggest break if you have to give a guys a break? Do you have an opportunity to get the guys in a pool or anything that way?
I didn't even look if the pool's an option. I just assumed it's not.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. We're keeping it all up pretty much. Nader, you've been there. Well, Brendon, you've been there too, if you remember it. But our wrestling room, my office, locker room, weight room, training room is all, a stone's throw.
Best facilities in the conference you guys have, in my opinion.
Yeah, you only saw part of it.
Yeah.
You only saw one side of the car, Nader.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we have a good setup, and so we don't really need a lot. We got some big hills around Mankato too to use for gravity and all that kind of stuff, and so yeah, we don't need a lot. Plus, you talk about Steiners. I can't wait you have Shuey on next week.
Yep, next Wednesday.
I can't wait for that. Shuey was at my wedding.
I need to have you come on like this again at the end just to give him a hard time.
Oh, I could blister him.
Yeah.
But the problem is he could do the same thing back.
Oh yeah.
And,
he told me about his Iowa days for a half hour today, and it was pretty good. I can't wait to dig up some stories from him next week.
Does Shuey still have the delayed laugh?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
he says something that's pretty funny, and there's nothing there, and then like 8 seconds later, it's like, like there's that tape delay.
Yeah.
There, but Shuey and Scotty Nolan and Steiners and all that stuff, we used to barnstorm camps and all that stuff, and he's a great coach. He's probably the coach I respect as much as anybody in the country, and he's a pretty chill guy. But I guess as he's gotten older, if he lights you up, you did something wrong. Like
no, yeah,
you did something wrong.
He was such a technician. He was wrestling with guys.
I never.
So I think he must turn 60 this year. Shuey.
That's it?
I think so. That's it. And he was wrestling today with Tanafus, and the
in plastics probably.
And he looks like he weighs about 150 pounds. He's like skin and bones and just a little bit of gristle left around him. But he was drilling with the guys and doing different stuff. And I'm so amazed on how he just does it. It's just amazing. So I can't wait to hear him.
Shuey, his technique and the way he does things. Everybody else is playing checkers and he's playing chess.
Yeah, he was showing some snap drills today with some kids.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
So his camp, Lincoln McElravy was a junior in high school going into his senior year. Flinner, I think your dad was at that camp.
Probably.
I wanted you to talk about this. I'm glad you're talking about it because John Stutzman, there's a video of John Stutzman talking about, he was going to BSC at the time. And there's all these guys at the camp. Or maybe it was you talking about it when you were on Track Wrestling with Cal Klingman. I watched all those. Wasn't Dave Schultz there or something?
That was one of the highlights of my life. Like I had Dave Schultz's poster, and Shuey put me in charge of him and Valentin Jordanov to take him.
Yeah, him too. Best lightweight wrestler of the era, right? I mean, that guy, unbelievable.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And Dave Schultz demonstrated technique on me for 2 days, and everything he did felt like your bone was bending. like he was trained in sambo and all that stuff. And but I got to take him. I was in charge of him in between sessions, so I didn't know what to do with him. Like I'm trying to act like I don't care, like they're just other guys, and I'm like, I got your poster on my wall, like on the panel, like the fake wood in my room, and so yeah, we take Steiners, those days, Terry and Troy's parents. Terry and Troy didn't drink all through high school or college or anything, but Tim and Lil did.
Of course.
Their parents, they had parties. They could go till 4 a.m. and Lil would be cutting hair at 7.
Yep.
We had those guys. I mean, Shuey had Kenny Monday, Gable, John Smith. I remember watching Smith wrestle Lincoln that summer. And
at the camp?
At the airport.
At the camp?
Yeah, in between sessions, everybody wrestled. Like all the coaches, and Kisgan was at that camp too. Devils Lake dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my best friends. I recruited him 3 times actually. But he's still pissed because John Smith wouldn't wrestle him. He kept asking John Smith to wrestle him and he wouldn't do it. So, but James has always got a cockle in his boot anyways. He always needs something to be worked up about.
How was that watching McElravy and John Smith wrestle?
It was awesome. It was better than you would think too. Like I asked Smith on the way to the airport, I go, "What do you think of McElravy?" He goes, "Kid's got world-class hips, world-class hips," and he did. And but yeah, it was. Shuey's just done a lot. He's just a massive.
Just the connections to the world-known names of wrestling you guys have. You think of Kenny Monday, and you think of these names flying out, J-Rob, and guess what? You were wrestling them, not only wrestling them, but you know them, and it's such a cool thing that wrestling does. I have no comparison. That's awesome.
Yeah, college athletics, and I think wrestling in general is we're like Flinner. I haven't seen you forever, but if you came to Mankato and you called me up, we could go shoot pool. Get caught up.
Yep.
And,
I'd get you more fish this next time.
What's that?
I said if you came my way, I'd get you more fish.
Yeah.
This time.
I'm 10 minutes from 3 different landings.
Yeah, do you remember when I came up there with my boys?
Yeah, I do.
Your dad took us. I mean, he's passionate about wrestling, but he was really passionate about walleye fishing.
Oh God, yeah.
We went out to this spot. You're fishing on the treetops, and he looked at my boys. We had, my kids were I bet you're 7, 9 years old or something, and he goes, "I'll put the leech on once, and after that, it's you. You have to do it." And he showed how you rolled it on your jeans a little bit and dried it off and found it. And he goes, "You put this on the bottom, and when you feel something, you count to 2. And then you yank it, but don't do it too fast." And it was awesome. It was like tough love. Like with boys, it's one of our favorite pictures we have. And one of the boys jump started a little bit quick, and your dad's just like, "I told you to wait till 2 seconds."
Oh man, just reliving my childhood, right there. He used to tell me to get me to not be afraid to pee while we were fishing. He'd be like, "Oh, the fish, that's what attracts them. When little kids pee into the water, that's what attracts them." So I'd be sitting there as a little kid, just woo,
But yeah, I'll never forget that with how he was with my boys. I had a great time just watching him. I could have said that to my boys and they'd have fought me on it, or started crying or something. But because it was your dad, it was different. And But yeah, you're right, John. It's just, I mean, I ran into you and Jeremy Swenson at the corner stool having a soda pop last year at regionals, and State was there, and I hadn't seen Jeremy in years either. And then you, and we just sat there and BS'd, and doesn't take long. Like Bill, I'm intrigued by Bill. Like, he got LASIK surgery or something last week because he's not.
Yeah.
Don't you usually wear glasses?
I got contacts too, but yeah.
And
I keep getting younger.
But yeah, like just the connection, connections, and most wrestling people aren't all that shy.
No.
Once you get around and
no,
I think wrestling people are pretty good at, like I always tell my guys, one of the best skills you can have that you can learn around here is the ability to give and take shit.
Yep.
Can you give it and can you take it? If you can do that, you can talk to anybody and you can go pretty much anywhere with a bunch of guys.
Well, I want to get on that. Yep. I want to get on that list of being one of the 100,000 people that have drank a beer with Randy Lewis. I haven't done that yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't. I know.
Yeah. I'm on that list.
Yeah.
Definitely on that list. Oh, at Steiner's. They have all those people I brought up, Kenny Monday, Gable and stuff. They were all out at Tim and Lil's place.
Yep.
Staying out late. One time we went on a hayride. There's an old bar from Steiner's. You know where Steiner's live?
Yep.
You go across the road, and out in the middle of nowhere, there's a bar.
Yep.
We
used to call the Hay Creek Club. That's what it was called.
That?
It used to call the Hay Creek Club. That's what it's called.
I'll take your word on it.
Yep.
But yeah.
It's now in the middle of the town.
Ever since that hayride, I think Gable knows my name, but he always calls me North Dakota. Hey, North Dakota. North Dakota, how you doing? And it was. I had a kid, Brady Wilson, losing the finals at nationals. He was a senior, 1-zip, and Gable was broadcasting for some reason. He comes over. I was bummed out too, and he comes over. He goes, "Hey, North Dakota, that one's gonna sting him for a while. That one's gonna sting him for a long while." And I go, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "No, I mean a long time." I get the point. I get it. I probably won't remind him of that right now, but yeah. And Shuey was the driver and all that stuff. And Milo Shuey and Milo.
Yep. I'm gonna have Milo on in the near future too.
That guy I could tell.
He's got stories. Yeah, he's got stories for days. That guy.
I think we all have a connection with Milo too.
Milo could probably still go right now.
Yeah.
He keeps himself in pretty good shape. How's Aho doing, Nader?
Haven't been out there. I just talked to him just a couple of times this fall. They've been busy. I've been busy. I'm doing grad school and coaching myself, and I'd like to get out there, but I tried to get a couple of my my better high school kids from Century into the room out there, but I figured I was going to get the answer, but can't have anybody in the room, obviously. But yeah, just it's a weird situation.
You answered correctly there, Nate.
Yeah,
it's an NCAA violation. I was hoping you were going to say he's kids out there.
No.
Report him. Does he still drink that beer with the fruit in it?
Haven't seen him. Haven't seen him drink any beer this fall.
All right, enough Aho. But he's doing a good job though.
So a couple questions for you. You've almost been on for good 45 minutes. That's pretty good. But quick question for you. In your time wrestling, tell us where you grew up. Okay. And in your high school wrestling, who was your toughest competition as a wrestler as when you grew up? And then when you got later on,
Brett
throw out some names.
Brent Hoffner from Bismarck High. And then Wayne Engerbretson beat me in my senior year. Wayne was tough too. Those two guys in high school, and then I don't know if you guys have ever heard this name, Paul Sivrud.
Oh yeah, of course, Jamestown, of course.
Yeah, so I remember wrestling him in college, and he had a hat that said "I love my wife," and a T-shirt that said like a phrase, like a biblical scripture and stuff like that. And I didn't really know, like we didn't have like these guys now, the internet and track wrestling and all that kind of stuff. And that's who I had. And I learned pretty fast. Paul Siverud's the man. I don't know if I think he lost one match in college.
Not many.
Some D1 kid, but I know he beat some really good D1 kids too. And so there's my two toughest ones. But then I'll tell you, Steiner's, just messing around with them, like they're younger than me. But I remember when they came back and they were working camps in Valley City. I know your dad was at that one, Flinner.
He's a VC alum.
Yeah, he is. So is Milo Trusty.
Yep. So is my dad.
So is your dad.
And that's where I got my teacher's degree.
But their hands were just, and we were just working on it in practice the other day. Just heavy hands, light feet. Heavy hands, light feet. And they would pull you around. And it's just that old Hawkeye, constant forward pressure, heavy hands, light feet. And as soon as you stood up like 4 inches too much, you were toast. And you overreact, you're getting front headlock. So I learned a lot from Shuey and Steiner's, a lot, a ton, especially Shuey.
Mm-hmm.
We had Scotty Nolan there too, but sometimes he didn't always make it to the sessions. We always said he's in the office doing paperwork.
Yeah.
He's doing paperwork. But just watching Shuey operate. That's really what got me going in college coaching. Was Shuey.
What brought you? How'd you get to Mankato? Tell us the story. How did you get to Mankato?
Flinner's dad is involved in this because I graduated. Can you hear me, Flinner?
Oh yeah, I'm listening.
I don't know if you've ever heard the story.
No.
I always thanked your dad for being really good in an interview, because him and I both applied for that Devils Lake job, and I went up there and interviewed, and so did he. And I really wanted the Devils Lake coaching job right out of college, and he got the job. And then after that, I started to have to reel, and then the coach I worked for at Valley City State took a job out in New York, and he called me, and this dude was as hard on me as anybody ever in my life. I don't know if he ever paid me a compliment. And he goes, "Do you want to be the next head coach at Valley City State?" I mean, I'm 23 years old. And I go, "Do you think I can do it?" I go, "That's not what I asked." "You want to do it?" I go, "But Pete, do you think I can do it?" He goes, "That's not what I asked." And there's some other words in there. And then he goes, "Jamie, I threw everything I had at you and you didn't break." He goes, "You can do it." So here I am, like remember Casey Schweitzer?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that
Schweitzer. So
very well. West Fargo.
Fan. What's that?
West Fargo. Yep.
He's I've coached for 30 years. He's the toughest dude I've ever had to this day. He is super, super tough. And he had to go through the Steiners. Like he wrestled the Steiners in college. And Casey was my teammate. And then I was a year later, I'm his head coach. And, sitting in his corner, watching him win a national title. And working camps together. So you kind of had to learn. It's kind of like, I don't know, Bill, like when you had Billy, I don't know if you knew what you thought, you knew how to parent him at the time, but you just better figure it out fast.
Yep.
You just do it. If you
well, by the time we got to him, we kind of had an idea, but it was the ones before him that was really sketchy.
Oh, I didn't know where he's in the birth order.
He's the last. He's the baby.
I don't know that much about Billy other than he's one of the wins Northern got. I was going to give Rocky crap. That was one of the wins Northern got on us when they came down last year. Your guy beat my guy at 65. I know Billy Holtan's a grinder. That's what I know.
Yeah.
I didn't know where he was in the birth order. I don't know. But, so I had Casey and had another national champ there. And how I got to Mankato, Shuey's involved, UND's involved, Kisgan's involved. Brad Kerr resigned at UND. And now I quit my job on April 15th, went to the jewelry store. Yeah. Like a knucklehead, I had like $900, probably $800 in savings. Went to the jewelry store and bought an engagement ring, and I came home and told my gal, she's still my wife to this day. I said, I quit my job. And then I go, do you want to get married? And she said, yeah. But my theory was like, I had no idea where I'm going to be, honey. I just want you to come along for the ride. So just hang on tight here. Like, I don't know. So Brad Kerr resigned, and I didn't like send a letter of application and a resume up there. I drove up there and waited outside of Terry Wanless's office until he came back from lunch. And Shuey was at BSC. And I think Shuey got interviewed. You have to ask him next week.
Okay, yep.
Shuey got interviewed in Valley City for that job. Shuey's a UND alum. And he stopped by my house and he goes, let's go for a drive. And he told me I was going to get that job. And I go, how do you know that? And they didn't offer him enough money or something. Well, then he changed his mind and did it. So then I went after the BSC job, and then Brett Mon got that job. Then UND's gone, BSC is gone. And then I was going to go to South Dakota State and be Jason Lyle's assistant coach. And but I was still holding out. I don't know why I believed I could actually get a college head coaching job. But then the Mankato kind of thing popped up. They had dropped it the year before. And at that point, I was actually in Bismarck working Shuey's camp. And got a phone call, told Shuey I got to go. Drive to Mankato. I'll be back the next day, and interviewed and ended up getting the job. And they were going to drop it. We took second in the nation out of nowhere. They hadn't done anything for years. We took second by about 80 points. Tight race. I think Central Oklahoma had 5 champs that year. But we just came out of nowhere, came back, they were going to drop the program. Next year, 5th in the nation, dropped the program. And then finally it kind of started to bust through. So yeah, that's kind of the short version.
And you've been there how many years now?
I don't know. Depending on if you ask human resources or me.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of crazy when I got here. The AD said, I expect a full-time employee, but I'm going to pay you part-time.
Yeah.
Stop me if you've ever heard that one before.
Yeah.
So I was here, and we took second in the nation, and I didn't have any assistant coaches. So I'm 55 now. That was 93.
Oh, yeah.
Now that year kind of counts when you start calculating your years of service and retirement and all that stuff. And so it took me 26 years to get my 25-year certificate in the mail. And I told them, okay, I'll cut I was here full time. I'll cut that trophy in half, and you can put it in my personnel file because you say I wasn't even here full time. And so yeah, since '93, and we've had our ups and downs like everybody. We have to survive. We've survived Title IX. We have some limitations, and yeah, I think Aho was my first paid assistant, Nader.
Okay.
We rescued him. He was at Boys Town at the time, or where he was, but we rescued him. He moved to Mankato with a Rubbermaid tub and slept in the wrestling room for a month. And then when his wife came to town, Labrina?
Yep.
They lived in our basement. That was a little more than a month. We had to ask Adam how the apartment search was going.
Yeah, he drove us around Mankato a little bit when we went down there. I lived with Makovsky here he didn't take us by your house, but then he lived in another place. He took us by that too, over by campus there. Yeah.
Yeah, him and I played Tiger Woods Wii golf every night. Yeah, but yeah, Aho, like I'm really proud of the guys that I've had as assistants that have gone on. I like competing against them too. But Brady Wilson at St. Cloud State, Sammy Barber was my assistant, the head coach at Air Force, and Ludwig at Northern Illinois, Eric Van Clay. I'm really proud of those guys, just like they're my own guys, and didn't really treat them any different than our guys either. They got to figure some stuff out on their own. And
so what's the biggest evolution in college wrestling then right now over the years that you've seen?
Technique wise?
Yeah. Anything? Do you think it's technique? What do you think is the biggest change in college wrestling? Is there more competition? Is the competition tougher, or is there an evolved state?
John, that's a really good question. One of the first thing that comes to my mind is cutting weight.
Okay.
Cutting weight has changed a lot, and it's way better. Our team doesn't cut. We don't really cut. I don't know if anybody, my 25-pounder Nader, McManus, he cut this year because he had to. But we stay healthier, not as many skin things, grades are better. But the one thing you miss are those lonely nights of cutting weight and sacrificing the toughness part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That extra time up in the room isn't necessarily being replaced by going up there and working on a technique the way I would like it to be. So maybe a little bit of the toughness. I don't know, John, do you guys remember the old Omaha Open?
Mm-hmm.
Flinner, did you wrestle in that? You remember the old Nebraska Omaha Open? Like, you got there at 5:30 in the morning. Everybody brought in groceries, a second tournament for all these freshmen. And the freshman sophomore division, that's bigger and sometimes tougher than the other division.
I remember wrestling 8 matches and I still was 2 rounds away from placing.
Yeah. Were you on Safford Tolich's team?
Yeah, I was a Safford Tolich.
Yeah, my guy Brandon Gertz, he's doing Bellator right now. He wrestled Safford Tolich, and Marty Morgan and I were walking over to that mat and looked at our watch. It was after midnight. We didn't even really know it.
Yep.
And you go 10-1, and you're not even to the third place match yet.
Yeah.
I missed that part too, but I just don't know if this. Not picking on this generation, but I don't know if that's the best thing for them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we walked out of there with some battle scars and seeing really good competition, not just you're wrestling, but watching it. We used to wrestle Iowa State, Wisconsin, and dual meets and stuff, and go to these open tournaments with all these D1 guys. Those just don't exist anymore. Because they have their different formula, and they go to dual meets and stuff instead. And I got asked at our booster club, why do you compete against those guys? You think you can beat them? I go, no, but I think of it like a farmer taking a mule to the Kentucky Derby. I just think the company will do them good. And getting in that company, getting them around that environment, you just kind of start to morph to it. You see how they scramble out of things. You see the little pushes and shoves that aren't unsportsmanlike, but they're part of the game. And just by opening your eyes up and watching, you walk out of a tournament like that better, tougher.
Mm-hmm.
I see that as a change. Technically, these guys are coming in. I've heard you guys talk about clubs. They're coming in technically, in some cases, physically ready to go right out of the chute. Pretty advanced technique and all that stuff, which is unique as a college coach because I don't want my guys to be who they are, but they're already kind of molded. They're not as much of a blank sheet of paper as they were 10 years ago. But the scrambling, obviously, the scrambling and just the differences. And Midwest has always been high crotch and banging, and West Coast scrambling, but that's all in the Midwest now. It's a melting pot or a tossed salad or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But these guys are smart too, John. Like the kids, the college guys, I think it's cool to be a good athlete and be smart now. And that wasn't necessarily true. Like when we were necessarily growing up, you kind of had to pick a team.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be a guy that works on cars? Are you going to be an athlete? Are you going to be a farm guy? Are you going to be a nerd? Well, we didn't have computers. Data processing guy.
It's possible to be a wrestler and smart. You got to be kidding me.
Our guy, our team, we got a bunch of sharp dudes, and
gotta be because you can't get a full ride in wrestling, so you gotta bring the books too.
Unless you go to Mary.
Yeah, right.
You get the Monsignor out there is like got some kind of special like discounts off that tuition. But yeah, and I think it's cool to be incorporated with other teams involved on campus other than, I think as a wrestling coach, one of the most important things is to get out of your office and go have coffee and develop relationships on campus. Otherwise, when you hear of a college team get canceled, I'm thinking politics,
right?
Get eliminated. It's a common theme. Lower grades, couldn't fill out their lineup. Nobody ever saw them on campus. They weren't involved. Those are like common themes. So you're putting bullets in the chamber of your administrators if you're not doing those things tactically. But I grew up in a small town. You guys, for the most part, are a small town. It's what you should be doing anyways.
Yep.
You know what? If a kid's got a family has got leukemia, a kid's got leukemia or something, you're at the pancake feed. Mm-hmm. Farmer has a heart attack. You can hate the guy. He cheats at cards when you play him, but he needs help combining. You know what I mean? You go do it. And that's, my wife went to Northern. And that's kind of just what you do. Like you go, maybe it's because we didn't have anything else to do. So you just went.
You helped everybody else out. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I think those kind of, as far as the mentality of college wrestlers, at least in my perspective, I don't know what it's like everywhere. I just think I don't want to say citizens because that sounds corny.
Mm-hmm. So do you do community building then? Do you do community building with your team?
Yeah.
Projects. Besides your big beanbag contest.
That's a good time, John. That's a real good time.
Yeah.
You go to the Northern. I'm going to golf with you at Rocky's thing next year.
Okay.
I told Rocky that.
That's fine.
Because he said you golf in a tank top.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I have.
Except for the holes, he wears a singlet.
Yeah. You do?
Well, there's a hole that they've actually paid me to put one on. Actually, not paid me, but they paid Northern to have us put them on. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to be there for that.
No.
Fight shorts.
They just make you.
I'd be voting for fight shorts and a t-shirt uniforms for that. But yeah, I just think they're not well-rounded is hokey too. But as far as community stuff, yeah, we do it. But one thing, again, this is no disrespect to anybody else, but I tell Eustace, my assistant, we're gonna do this stuff. But I don't want, you can put a picture somewhere if you want to, but I don't want any virtue signaling. I can't stand seeing that, like, we're not doing it for that.
Right.
Like the way I was, right? Like, in our house is like, you do it. And if you want attention for it, you just did it for the wrong reason. And it's kind of erased. So just do it.
It's a Bible verse, man. The right hand should know what the left hand's doing.
I like it.
Yeah, like it's just
I'm curious too.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not why you do it.
No,
I've got quotes all night by Brendon Flynn.
I know. I was driving home.
Did you miss the one? Pressure is a privilege. I'm putting it on a T-shirt. I've already got it made out as I'm sitting here.
That's a good one.
Hey man, I got my own brand. Even for real. It's called Thug for Jesus.
Okay.
Thug
for Jesus. Yeah, I didn't know it.
It's called Thug for Jesus because
get like the WWW up there.
But like I'm like, yeah, it's kind of something I started. It's just called Thug for Jesus, and then like one of my things that says even God has warriors. That's just kind of a big thing. That's just kind of a big thing. I am like a lot of people like think like Christians are passive. Like in reality, if you read the Bible, like there's a lot of like dudes in there. Like.
Paul Sivrud was one of them.
Yeah. There's some, I mean, it's just kind of like, I'm not perfect. I drink beer, I swear, but they're like, I believe in all that, God and country kind of thing, it's like, but yeah, it's like, you just kind of pick up all these things. That's that living as a gym rat, man. Just growing up in gyms, like you pick up all these things and you hear these things and you just kind of put something together, you know.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm reading Matthew McConaughey's new book. I don't know if you guys listened to Joe Rogan when he was on there.
I did. Yep.
It's really good. And he was talking about religion. The root word is like rejoin. Yeah. And he was talking about, because Joe Rogan, he's always got to poke holes in things. And he's like, you take the Bible literal and all that stuff. He goes, well, the burning bush and stuff like that, I don't know what to do with that. I just don't know what to do with it. But exalt yourself and you shall be humbled. Humble yourself, you shall be exalted. He goes, I know what to do with that. So he goes, do I understand all? I mine what I can mine out of it. And it's like the first self-help book. Yep. And but I also believe you don't go to church so everybody can see you with a halo over your head either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're there for the wrong reason.
Yeah, my grandpa told me when I was a little kid, he said, never trust a band that sits in the front pew.
What's he saying about the back?
Well, I mean, I was a literal kid, so like I took that serious. Like he meant just like don't judge a book by its cover, Like I was a little kid, like we'd be going to church, and my dad would be trying to go up towards the front because that he was the rest of his soul, he was a hardcore Catholic, and so like we'd be going to church, and I'd be like, we can't sit up the front. No, like, no, like. Grandpa told me we can't. So I'd be sitting there in church, that literal kid, like 7, 8 years old, like I can't trust him.
Like, I like sitting in the purgatory rows.
Yeah.
You're not back in sinner's row way in the back, and you're not up front either. So I can just slide in. So when the priest is reading the gospel, he's not looking. I can hide.
Yeah.
And that's cool that you're doing that. You sell shirts and stuff then?
Yeah, I mean it's not like full scale, but it's like like if someone wanted to order something, I'd put in or I'd get you what you wanted.
There you go, John.
Oh yeah.
John's already got a T-shirt. I can't believe you have. Next time I'm on, I'll wear it. It's the Jordan symbol, and the guy's getting launched. I bought myself one. Yep. Pretty sweet. It's on Amazon.
Yep. I have always been a little bit of a businessman, but I've never been good enough to make enough money not to be able to teach.
Hey man, I'm a teacher too. I gotta have a side hustle.
Yeah.
Like there's gotta be some kind of side hustle. I'm trying to retire.
We can't all make big bucks like Jim.
Yeah, I'm trying to retire I'm trying to retire and then like just from and just be a coach. Like that's the dream,
Yeah, I was driving my buddy his luxury limo thing during the unprecedented pandemic here. Not necessarily for the money, but just to get out of the house and
yeah, no kidding.
People,
right?
He's driving Uber. That's how much he makes at
finding any excuse to get outside these days.
Yeah, well, it's been long. Like I don't do well with sitting around.
Sure. Yeah.
So like, there you go. The devil finds work for idle hands.
Yeah, and I
do stuff, and you can only golf so much, and on the boat, but yeah, it was really weird. Our facility, like, I really think I needed the guys more than they needed me, because they were like my lifeline, and just the hallways. It's kind of nice when they go home on break, when it's supposed to be like that, but April, May. It's not supposed to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was depressing. And Mankato, we have 17,000 students, and it's a hopping town. And just walking through there, someone that's been here, 27, 28 years.
It's like a morgue.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah.
You're used to seeing our campus population we have a ton of rural kids, metro kids, out of state, international students. You see something cool, you walk for 100 yards and you see some unique stuff. There's unique stuff everywhere. And just walking around there now, it's like, cricket.
I thought it was just because the Vikings left.
Well, that was a whole nother thing when the Vikings were here. Things have changed there a little bit too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's just like the school system.
Yeah. I don't know.
What'd you say, Brett Flinner?
Well, I was just saying, like, that's like the school, and like John, I don't know like what it looks for like you on a daily schedule, but like we do an A-B schedule, you know. So like half the students are there like Monday and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, whatever, and so it's like so I got half my class in class, and then I got the other half like at home, like zooming in, and it's just like it's a weird atmosphere. Like I'm a teacher, like how how Jim was saying, like he needs to get up and do something. Like I'm a teacher that normally puts in like 5,000 steps a day just because of my ADD running around. Like I can't handle sitting still, and I'm teaching from a desk now, and I was like I'm never gonna be that teacher now. Like now I can't have to. It's different times. It's like kind of like here you go. Here's another quote. It's a year of adversity. Like that's what I've been telling my guys like all season. Like it's we're in a season of adversity. Like like one little thing after another. Like we started our season on time, and then like my guys, we unfortunately had a kid test positive, so we were all quarantined for 14 days. And and then we. Like 3 days, what was it, like 3-4 days into our quarantine, that's when they shut us down anyway. So it was like huge blessing, so like we had this hill high, and then like you're like trying to manage this, and like what you were talking about with the team building stuff, like we were doing Zoom workouts together, like I never thought
jumping jacks.
Yeah, like, well, I don't know if you guys know CrossFit, but like this AMRAP thing they call it, like you do, like you pick like 5 exercises, and you like start with 10 and go up, like, so you do 10 reps of something, and then 20 reps of something, you go up to 50, but then you like do it for 20 minutes straight, as many times as you can, and get as many, like, so we were doing like that, like just trying to, like stay positive and stuff, and like, and like here, I guess I'm good for one more quote, John. Good for one more quote.
I gotcha.
Good for one more quote. So you're, and this is actually something. This is a guy I listen to, because if you haven't figured out by now, I'm a big Christian, big man of God. But this is a guy I listen to on a daily basis. But he heard like one of the best quotes I ever heard. He said, "You're great. Like said your setbacks are a setup for your greatest comebacks." And like it's just like it made so much sense to me, and it's like it just totally played into this year. Like there's been so many setbacks this year, and like different things that have happened, and it's like, and if we play that victim, it's gonna be a setback. But if we stay, if we like look at the bright, like try to find the good and like stay positive and like keep moving forward, like that setback is actually just like a slingshot, like it's just setting you up for like a huge comeback, so it's
true.
It's a big thing, like this year, because and I heard Colat, because I'm a big Corey Colat fan, and he's been all over Instagram lately. I don't know if any of you guys like follow Flo on Instagram.
I do,
but he's been all over Instagram lately, and something he said to his guys, and it just stuck with me, over at, is it Campbell, right?
That's
he's at Navy now, but
he's at Navy now. But yep.
Oh, he's at Navy. Okay. But okay. So, but it was cool. Now it was cool because in his things he was talking like, and this is something I relayed to my guys, is like, because right now they're getting a life lesson. Like these guys are getting a big life lesson. Like they're not guaranteed anything. Like that's huge. Like I didn't figure that out until my dad passed away, that you're not guaranteed anything, and that took like that took me into my 20s, and like these kids are figuring it out now. Like, so that, so like, it's a big thing for these kids. Like, I know like, these kids are like, I think these kids coming out now, like, I think they're going to be a lot tougher than like most generations, if they allow it to be.
That's the point.
Just because, like what they're overcoming right now, like, like say, like whoever has seniors right now, I know Nate, you can attest to this because you got some seniors right now. I'm sure you got to try to build them up because they're not sure, like they have those doubts and Jim and Bill, you guys can too with, but like, you got to convince them like, hey, like every day, like you got to make the most of this, because you got to like build, because there's so much doubt in the air, with everything going on, like not knowing like if we're guaranteed tomorrow or not,
Don't know what you have until you don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. And
you just don't.
And that's why I'm, super excited. Like once we can finally like get some competition and get out there and just, and I know you guys are too. It's just, let these kids like just give them that chance, So
my guys are college age guys, and they are like third graders on a playground at recess.
Yeah.
In the room right now. They're loving every minute of it. And that thing that they sometimes dreaded, they had it taken away for 7 months, and it's like, I'm not going to take this for granted. I'm not going to take it for. So I like what you're saying, Brent. There's a lot of opportunity in chaos.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is.
Yeah.
But and wrestling builds that foundation for it though too. You got to get back up after getting taken down. You can't just lay there and get yourself pinned.
Yeah, you learn the most from your failures. You really do. The
struggle to me, I got two things.
Okay.
Hey, my third thing is I got 3% on my 90,
okay.
90, 80. I don't have a computer. This is like an old iPad.
It's working perfect.
My very first one is I respect all five. Bill, I know you the least, but I love listening to the show. It started off during this pandemic too. I'd sit in the sauna and I'd get bored, and I'm like, hey, what is this? There's gums, and so it's fun listening because I could tell like all of you guys and everybody you have on here is in it for the right reason, and it's all competition and everything, but it's about developing young men in our country. Desperately needs opportunities for them where masculinity is okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay for you to be rough here. It's okay for you to basically roughhouse as adults.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't have to be civilized right here, because if you can be hunting or hay baling, whatever, it's got to do some guy stuff. And everybody I've ever heard you have on here, it's been, I've walked away with a smile on my face. Mm-hmm. You can tell, John, your passion. Bill, you're like Wikipedia. I don't know how you know all this stuff. It's been fun listening. I caught part of Brendon on the way home, and I was getting pumped just hearing you talk about your team. And Nader's an inspiration to me. I wish he'd have been on my team. I wish he'd have been on my team. I loved the way he did his I liked the way he carried himself, and you just knew it was 7 minutes. It was 7 minutes. Yeah, just respect for him. And I know he's a guy that gets it too. So I appreciate you guys doing this and let me slip on here for a while. And I got a bunch of text messages and I don't have a bunch of juice left. So got respect for you guys.
Well, Jim, we'll have you on.
I loved your dad too. You had a hell of a dad. He was a good dude, gone way too soon. But I can hear that you can appreciate and are grateful for the time you had with him, because you obviously instilled some stuff in you.
Yeah. And, you got to appreciate what you had versus what you lost.
Right now, yeah. Like Warren Zevon, Werewolves in London guy. Letterman loved him and had him on there. He was dying. He was going to die within a month. He knew it. He said he hadn't been to a doctor in 30 years. He goes, it was one of those phobias that didn't really pan out for me. So, but Letterman asked him, it was kind of a choked up moment. He goes, what can you teach us as a people from what you're going through? Like right now, he goes, I guess you got to enjoy every sandwich, Dave.
Yeah.
I never forgot that. And it's just like, you got to enjoy every sandwich. Every time you step out there and wrestle, you can get your knee blown the next match or never be a starter ever again. And so you might as well be grateful for it. And you're going to perform better and enjoy it. If you aren't, it's all about me. And the world is going to end if I lose this match. And the pressure is a privilege thing, is money.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Probably
I can't even take credit. That's Doc Rivers, man.
Oh, is it?
I heard that from Doc Rivers. Like, of all people, Doc Rivers. Like, I heard that from him, and it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, like, that makes sense. Like, yeah, pressure is a privilege, you know, like,
But at the same time, David Lee Roth from Van Halen said, boxing for money is a lot different than boxing for fun, especially when you don't have any money in your pocket.
yeah.
So it's like that balance in there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you want it bad, but you don't need it. But it's close. You're right on the edge. Speaking of close,
Hey, Jim, before you take off, I just want to say, we've been following, my good friend, your good friend, Eric Hewitt. He used to tell me, great stories about you. And so when we started competing against you, we were to cheer for your team all the time, with the exception of, about one time a year. But, Eric would love these shows. He would live for this. He loved the sport, and he loved to hear people talk. He'd love to hear himself talk, so, I just, he would get a kick out of this tonight. So fun.
Wish I had more juice. I'd like to hear how Marty Holkalter's doing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're good.
All those guys.
Yep.
Appreciate you guys.
We'll have you on again, Jim.
Yeah. Take care, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
Well, John.
Well, I tell you what, I love that man. He's a good man.
Yeah, fun.
I tell you what, he's wise. I tell you what, he's had to go through some times too to get where he's at, because he put it all on the line to try to get a wrestling coaching job somewhere. And guarantee there were times where he wasn't guaranteed a lot of money to do what he loves. And I'm envious that he has a position like that, because that would be like my dream job, to be a college coach. That really is. That's pretty awesome. No, Nate, I've got to talk to you much. You've been pretty quiet overall.
I'm just soaking it in, listening to a guy like that, to be honest. Like, that's fun for me, because you always hear these stories from Aho, and I'm getting them secondhand, but and it was great. I got to hear some of him talk. Kyle Klingman had him on Track Wrestling, and there's some on YouTube, and he has some fantastic stories to tell. I just love hearing those old stories. I can visit with people that are older than me way better than I can visit with people my own age. I just love hearing stories, so that's awesome.
No, everyone that he says, and he starts bringing up those names. I could not leave Shuey tonight. We talked for a half hour after his practice was done, and it was just stories. Shuey said that he went 4 months where he didn't say a word to anybody, and he had no money when he went down there. He basically lived in the Iowa house, and Ursuline, the guy at Minot State that coached there for a little bit, Robin Ursuline, was the guy that actually took him under his wing down there and actually kind of brought him in. And he says it took 4 months until someone finally talked to him. Nobody even, he was a nobody and nothing. And Jeff Schumacher, and learning, because he goes, because I sucked. I wasn't a good wrestler. I got beat up every day. But something about wrestling, I remember those practices that were so hard that you just hated life for that split second, that half hour or whatever it was. But it was all said and done, something about your body recovering that you feel so much better doing it. I don't know what it is. It's that hard workout that you do, the punishment you put your own body through, and you survived. There's nothing like it. I can't explain it to people that have never experienced that.
Yeah, if there's one thing I miss, it's that daily grind with that dude across from you. Like, because for that, however long that match is, like, you're just enemies. Like, it's an unwritten thing. Like, you just hate each other for 40 minutes, however long it lasts. But the second you're done, like, it's your brother in arms kind of thing. It's like you just go through that battle together, and like that's what I miss the most. Like, the competition was fun. Yeah, going to get and like show off your skill. Like, yeah, that's all fun. But those daily grinds of those, like, you're kind of your brothers.
Yep.
Like. The unrefed matches were my favorite. When Jim mentioned like the shoves at the end, or the extra, just that little, just those little things, like that's kind of what I miss the most, because when he was talking about that team building, that's where like the most camaraderie in my opinion. And then like you develop that bond that just lasts a lifetime. Like I know I have a couple friends right now that I could call up from high school, and like no matter what, like boom, like they would be there in a second just because of that bond you developed with those people.
Definitely. Well, let me go through the quick questions. We've been on the longest show ever. I tell you what, we've made it to about an hour 40 before, not a whole hour longer than that. But Jim brought us a whole new atmosphere. When Jim hopped on, that next hour just disappeared. I mean, something about it. He just brings it. So I have got my list of questions I still want to ask. And Nate, I think you got these questions already before. And so you don't have to answer them because I think you've had all these. But I'm going to ask Brendon. These are quick fire shots, and then we'll have last comments from people. Okay, Brendon. Okay, some rapid fire questions. Gatorade or Powerade?
Powerade is what I drink after every weigh-in. Red.
Popsicle red. Okay, even better.
You throw that stuff up. That ain't good, Brendon.
Popsicles or dilly bars?
Oh, neither.
How about when you were 300?
Both.
Okay.
If I had to pick, it'd be popsicle.
Okay. Best day of the week?
Probably Saturday.
Okay. Mama's boy or a rebel?
I was a dad, man. It took me till my 20s to be a mama's boy. So
Rebel till 20.
Yeah, rebel till 20.
Okay, fast paced or consistently slow?
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
How do you want your athletes to be that you're coaching? Consistently fast or
tough.
Yeah. Tough
versus talent any day.
Tough. There we go. Favorite holiday?
Well, I'm a Scrooge, but I'm a Christmas Eve baby. It's fun being the Scrooge. Honestly, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. 4th of July is always fun.
Okay. Dan Gable or Cale Sanderson?
Ooh, you had to go there. Can I say John Smith?
Nope.
See, that's the rebel.
No, if I honestly for inspiration, like Sanderson, for like all time Gable. Like you ask me on either day, that's going to be different, man. Like this total like Sanderson, I just love what he does, what he's like,
I've always said I wanted to be a fly just in the room just to listen.
Oh, just like either one. Like you could ask me in 10 minutes and I would say something different.
Have you guys seen there's a video on YouTube? Scrolling through the interwebs, there's a video of Dan Gable. You don't see many Dan Gable run practices on the internet, but there's a video, has to be from the late 90s or maybe training for the 2000 Sydney Olympics at the latest, where Dan Gable is running a Hawkeye Wrestling Club practice. I believe he's no longer the head coach of the Iowa team, but he's just running a Hawkeye Wrestling Club practice. It's pretty good.
Okay, I will search that one out. In fact, I got to write that down right with the quotes, with the Brendon quotes. Okay, Gable practice. Because guess what? I've seen a Gable practice, and he's abrupt. He tells you what it's black and white.
There was a lot of quiet, and then and he's like mopping the mat. He's got his wrists all taped up. He's not wrestling, but he's all taped up, and he's in some clogs, and he's mopping the mats because they've been wrestling live for a while and soaking wet. And then somebody does something wrong. I don't even know if there's something wrong, but if there's something he needed to say, it was right on him. But it wasn't very loud in there. Sure. There was a lot of a lot of that going on.
Favorite number?
7.
7. Any reason for 7?
I don't know. It's always kind of been my number. I always loved 52. 52, like
5 plus 2 is 7.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge Ray Lewis guy. I love Ray Lewis. Like Ray Lewis was my dude. But I couldn't wear a 50 number in the backfield, so 7 was the next best thing.
Okay. Favorite move to show in the practice room?
Oh, it's got to be a low single.
Low single. Okay. Best wrestler you ever wrestled in high school and in college?
Best wrestler I wrestled in high school? probably Elliot Piper from Bismarck.
Ooh.
He was a dude.
I remember Elliot. Yep.
Yeah, he was a 3-timer from Bismarck. He was really good. College was, I mean, God, I could say Conrad or I could say Kish, just my 2 practice partners every day that just whooped my butt. Like, so if I had to pick, I would say Conrad, just because like the beatings for him were worse from Kish, just because he was just bigger.
If you had to have a stamp on your wrestling program, what would your stamp say?
Do something great.
Okay, that's pretty good. And usually Bill has a couple. Any other ones?
I don't have anything. It's been too much fun.
Oh,
you hit them all tonight.
Well, that's pretty good. I was trying to do it from memory, most of it. That's pretty good.
You hit them all.
Okay, well, awesome, guys. I tell you what, we'll do it again. I tell you what, Brendon, I enjoyed tonight. This was a highlight of my week. It's been awesome. I tell you what, if you guys have an opportunity, friend Blair Kelly. Blair Kelly's doing a little bit of stuff. Visit with him. He's pretty wise in a lot of ways, and he's doing little clips, about 2 minutes every morning on some little thing, and it's good. He's a little motivation. He's doing some motivation stuff.
Is it on Instagram?
Or is it on Facebook? More on Facebook. Okay. So Blair, look up Blair Kelly. I tell you what, he's doing something, and I think the more people that we get to push him, he would do it more often. He'd get a YouTube channel, and I think he's doing something. He's helping other people out.
Yeah, I like Blair a lot. I've known Blair for a long time.
He got on last week, and I'm giving him a double thumbs up, and he listens to this stuff too. If people have a chance, go over there, check out his stuff. He's a good friend, and I think it would really help him out in a lot of ways, just to know that other people believe what he's saying, and because he's saying some good things.
I still remember when Blair called me for my second caution with 30 seconds left in the Rotary Finals. that far off the starting line. Tie the match.
Oh.
I still remember that. Yeah, he was my ref. I still remember Blair to this day, like calling me for my second caution with like less than an inch my foot off the starting line with 30 seconds left, like to tie the match. Like, I remember looking up at him like, you couldn't have blown the whistle? Like, like couldn't have just blown the whistle?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Blair's a good guy.
Okay, last words from Nate tonight.
I had a lot of fun tonight. The season's going to come up fast. We're less than 2 weeks away from our first competition, and hopefully all goes well. We get it in, and we get the guys ready to wrestle. I'm looking forward to getting out there.
Someone wants to see Century's schedule. Is it put up yet somewhere?
We're still making changes on the fly. We have a duel on the 15th as of now, and we have a duel on the 19th. Both of them will be at Century. So one of them is a conference duel against Jamestown. The other is a non-conference duel. But
not against Jamestown too.
That one would be against Mandan. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Jamestown twice in a row. That's pretty much how it's going to be this year. Okay, Brendon, your last words for tonight.
I just appreciate you for what you guys do with this, man. I just think it's an awesome platform to get wrestling out there and expose, people in North Dakota to it, because, we don't get a lot of attention. We don't necessarily ask for a lot of attention. So I think any chance we get to promote what we're doing is just an opportunity and a blessing. So I just thank you guys for what you do.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. And we were going to do this one other time, and so we'll do it again too.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Definitely.
Thank you guys.
You bet. And Bill?
Yeah, hey, I just want to thank Nate and Brendon for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Obviously, Jim added another layer to it, and that was great. We've been trying to get him on for a while, but he's been a great supporter to the show. But besides that, I guess one thing I just want to kind of throw out there is we've had a lot of stuff to talk about, in wrestling wise, even without having really no college wrestling, having no high school wrestling here in the state up to this point. And I know there's a lot of people out there kind of waiting for that to start happening too, right? So we're talking about, who did what at in a we're not going to be in no tournaments, but, in duels and be able to talk about individual matchups and those things are going to come. But, this has been a great opportunity to be able to talk to, these two guys that have a lot of experience and and some great history in the state. And then bringing Jim on also. So it was a great show. It's been a lot of fun, and we're just going to keep on going and keep supporting the sport.
It keeps my soul right by doing this, guys. I tell you what, and honestly, we didn't have the greatest numbers tonight. If you can probably see that on the top, but that's not the big deal. People come back and watch this, and it means more. Putting this down for history purposes, names. You don't believe how people come back after years and find this stuff and can put a.
It's one thing about the internet; it's here forever.
Smile, it'll put a smile on someone else's soul, is what I wanted to say. Definitely. Well, thanks again, everybody. John Gums, almost 2 hours and 50 minutes tonight of fun. Come back. I'll put this on. Also, if you're hearing this, it'll also go on a
podcast.
Podcast. I couldn't even think of the right word.
All your podcast catchers, it'll be there.
Yes, and they'll be there, so you can catch it. And I've got a lot of good responses, and just keep it doing. But everybody get out there, promote wrestling. That's what I'm here for. Great night. Thanks again.
Yeah, you guys take care. God bless.
Yep.